Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Moment of silence. Prisoners of war, men and women missing in action. Thank you. Secretary Billups. Secretary Billups. Can I get a roll call?
Yes. Councilor Heyman? Yes. Councilor Heyman?
Here.
Councilor Blackwell?
Present.
Councilor Andrusko, I think you're on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Councilor Sadiq?
Present.
Councilor Faralia? Here. Councilor Silva?
Here.
President Burke?
Here.
Secretary Billups is here. Councilor Wagner?
Here.
Councilor Tunis, I think you're on Zoom as well.
Good afternoon, Upper Darby.
And Vice President Wentz.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you, Secretary.
We have Officer Bateman. We have Solicitors Marcini and Kilkenny. We have our wonderful Mayor, Barbara Ann Keffer, and we have, is Treasurer Heyman on Zoom? I'm sorry.
Yes, good evening.
Hi. And we have our treasurer who's on Zoom. We have our wonderful Alexis. And of course, we have the residents of Upper Darby. Hi, y'all. And I said.
Yep, we got it. We got it.
Right.
Okay, we got, next up, rules of immediate decorum. Upper Darby residents have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Residents are prohibited from making threats, using profanity, or acting in a manner that would impede or prevent the conduct of business in this meeting. Public forum shall not exceed 30 minutes. So up 5.0, I believe Secretary Billups, you will handle this, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Councilor Sadiq. We are giving out awards, a presentation of awards for Bangladesh Heritage Month. The awards recipients are, and I apologize if I mess up your name, Abu Amin Rahman and Fatima Ahmed. So Councilor Sadiq is going to read the bio for Abu Amin Rahman.
Thank you, President Burke and Secretary Michelle Bilib. I would like to read bio Abu Amin Rahman, our community leader, who is going to be recognized tonight we call in here in Bangladesh Heritage Month. It's actually the independent month, which is 16 December. Abu Amin Rahman, a pharmacist, chemist, is in this community since 1975. He was the president of Bangladesh Association of Delaware Valley on 1988. He is involved in supporting the ever-growing community from early on. He was involved in keeping up Bengali heritage and culture and established mosque and religious institution. In addition, his most impressive contribution was instilling the awareness and participation in mainstream politics in USA. He knew the new immigrant community need to get involved in political activity to earn confidence and advance the democratic agenda and own empowerment. He was the main guru in this endeavor. Because of his reluctance effort, many members from community are now participated and even elected in Upper Darby and neighboring Melbourne Township. His involvement inspired the Northeast Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, and Lansdale Bangladeshi community to get involved and become very active in political process for many years. After retirement, he took a job as Philadelphia City's school social worker and helped the parent of Greater Philadelphia Bangladeshi community to guide their children education in their new world. This job allowed him to reach the maximum people in the community with most important needs of new immigrant like children, education, and political empowerment. He is also actively involved in supporting and advertising newly elected members so they can perform their duty in highest manner. His contribution is enormous with great impact with the community. He also supporting new immigrant community for their shelter, for their job, and many other things. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce Abu Amin Rahman for his recognition on behalf of the Township Council. Would you like to say a few words, please? Okay. Thank you.
I'll be reading a bio about Dr. Fatima Ahmed. She started a medical practice at the District Health Center number 4 in Philadelphia since 1987. She served her patient with dignity and the highest professionalism. Due to her multi-language skills, all new immigrants, South Asian and Bangladeshi patients get very high comfort level for their health and even all social issues in their country. She gives routine counseling out of her own way and goes out of her own way, to support the needs of her patients. She also organized and provided lectures on women's health in Upper Darby to the Bangladeshi women to improve their health awareness. She had organized multiple lectures for breast cancer awareness program for Bengali women in the city of Philadelphia on behalf of Susan Komen Breast Cancer Society. She has been supporting the community to uphold cultural and religious heritage in their country. She's the only woman physician served the longest with compassion and caring in the community. In Philadelphia, I apologize. In Philadelphia, to commemorate the humanitarian philosophy and global impact of the great Bengali rebel poet Qazi Nazrul Islam. She has also served on the advisory board of New York-based 32-year-old North American Annual International Bengali Book Festival. And she served for the longest time with compassion and caring in the community in tri-state Delaware Valley area. That's Fatima Ahmed. So I think now we'll give Mr. Brockman and Ms. Ahmed your awards. So you guys want to go down?
I just want to ask, Barbara, did you get these from Schuster? He gave me one that's like today. You know, the whole office is covered in Zittners because he's like a, you know. Oh, jeez. Not very nice. Did she? Oh, in the afternoon, I think. Westchester would be great. Jefferson.
Tennessee. She goes, I don't know if I'm looking at you. I go, "Which one do you want to pick?" You know?
And very brief.
Lisa, Lisa. Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank our mayor, Barbara and Kiefer, and all the our council members and officials. My involvement in politics begins in Delaware County many years ago, mostly around Milburn Borough, Upper Darby, and Marple Newtown Township. What can I say? I'm just doing my job. I was carrying out in specific instruction from then Chairman Cliff Wilson and Tony Campisi. They told me to go to Upper Darby and organize people to vote, people to choose their candidates, and particularly work for democracy. Looking back, I see many changes. First, Milburn became blue. Sheikh Siddiq got elected. And I believe for this Asian tremor that's been started in Delaware County, particularly in Upper Darby, has been transforming the West Philadelphia area and Northeast Philadelphia too. My wife became the executive director of Delco Dems. Not a bad report card. Now the job is done. I would like to retire myself, if that my wife allows me to. I sincerely like to thank Upper Darby Township for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Fatima, do you want to come and say a few words?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
And greetings to all of you for upcoming holidays, and hope you have a good one. I'd like to thank Upper Darby Township for giving me this honor, and I'm really humbly thanking you for recognizing me and my work. My work in Philadelphia started in Public Health Department in 1987. Around even working with my job, like doing my job first, that I do, but when I see the Southeast Asian people more, patients, I feel them like they're very close to my heart. And there are a lot of immigrants comes here. They really need to know exactly how to live here. It's very different, you know. social, cultural, everything. So what I do is I do take extra time with every patient, try to talk to them personally that this is how they have to behave, not only with their own community people, also the people who are like people here, US people, so they're neighbors, not just mingling with your own Bengali people. You need to mix with all the other people also, so you can help them and you can get help, or you can know a lot of new things from that. That's your personal lifetime. Then again, women's health is another issue that I want to do something. As I'm a women physician, I also think that I have a special place. I can talk to them personally, make them understand what is good for their health, to take care of a family. Some women work, and then working and taking care of the family and children is very tough. So I try to balance them, tell them how to balance the things, how to mix with the other moms and do things what you think is good to do things. And mostly public health department, we have a lot of other social things. We have social worker, but I feel that as I have a special place, I can give them some other things in the social life and social issues that we can discuss with the patients. So my patients really feel very close with me. They can call me any time of the day, night, if any problem, because there are a lot of new immigrants, when they get sick, they stay home. They don't know that if they go to ER, they are always worried about the bills. But I always make sure to talk to them, even at 2 o'clock in the night. They call me, what should I do? I just send them to ER, tell them that think about the bill later. Get your health better, then we can work together. We also do a lot of insurance thing at my clinic. We have opportunity to help patients apply for their getting insurances, and through my writing in there is a paperwork we need to do, the doctors do, and there are a lot of hundreds of people are really getting insurances now. Apart from my 1,600 patient, I have almost 850 Bangladeshi patient. So they feel very close to me. So as long as I am able to drive, I'm able to work, I will continue doing my work for the society, for people around me, my Bangladeshi people and Southeast Asian people mostly, to make them understand how to do a better job and lead better life. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, especially the Community Engagement Committee for your hard work all year. Continue the work next year, so thank you very much. Next up, 6.0, approval of minutes. We're going to do all of them together. Approval of the minutes for committee meeting November 2nd, budget hearing November 2nd, council meeting November 17th, and budget hearing November 17th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you very much. Next up, 7.0, Secretary Billups, public forum.
Yes. 8 people. So when you come up to the podium, please speak into the mic and say your name and address. Thank you. First is Steve Lockhart.
Evening, folks. Steve Lockhart, 427 Spruce Avenue. Came to speak about Gillespie Park. Before I begin, Darby Creek Valley Association publishes a newsletter. They featured Gillespie Park on 2 pages. Wonder if I could just pass them out. Don't want you to read them now, too much time, but you might enjoy reading some of those. Can I wait a moment until they pass them around?
Then you have some extras too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'll just leave
There are a
them
couple of people aren't here. If you want to keep them in the office, they can get them. Again, Gillespie Park. I'm just one of numerous members of several groups that represent a coalition fostering private development in the township. We, Upper Darby Trails, Upper Darby Rain Gardens, Upper Darby Tree Tenders, and the Upper Darby Environmental Advisory Council are trying our best. But what we do is really only window dressing for what the township does. Many of you know that the installation of a window can be expensive or time-consuming and energy-intensive, while hanging a curtain is less so. Much of what we do is like hanging a curtain that might draw some attention to your heavy work. Over the course of the last 2+ years, the township, led by the mayor, has done some substantial work on trails, parks, and protecting our waterways. A good example of each of these is evidenced by the improvements along the Darby Creek at Gillespie Park. The Darby Creek Valley Association, which monitors work up and down the entire length of the Darby Creek, has noticed as well. In their quarterly newsletter, they devoted 2 pages to Upper Darby's improvements at Gillespie Park. Copies are provided to you this evening. The article doesn't provide any real appreciation to you, the window builders, however. Hopefully, we can amend that tonight. In conjunction with the Upper Darby Shade Tree Commission, the tree tenders wrote for grants to plant trees at Gillespie. But without the township's equipment and personnel, we would still be digging holes in that rocky soil. Those trees, like rain gardens, will help to reduce stormwater volume and filter pollutants. The township also secured funding for the trail and the coming bridge work across the creek that will make nearly 2 miles of continuous Darby Creek Trail from Rosemont Avenue down to Kent Park. None of this gets done without the mayor's staff. Allison Dobbins, Vince Rangione, Mike Galante, Josh Chase, and others interacting with us. The facilities. You can finish up, sir. Thank you. The facilities guys, supervised by Joe Martin and Jen Heath, accomplished what we alone could not. For example, the Christmas tree revetment at the old Swedish cabin. That was heavy physical work. Using a sledgehammer to drive rebar is for strong shoulders and backs. But to stabilize the stream bank, it is necessary. And your guys did the work. 15 seconds more. As a coalition of groups, we want to thank the township and all of its folks for continuing to enhance the trails and parks for recreation while increasing attention to pollution reduction in our environment. With luck, Gillespie Park is just the start of our public-private relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Becky Dugan.
Okay.
Okay.
Joanne Namavong, 133 North Pennock. A couple things I wanted to ask about. Asked about the situation with the rats last week on the 4100 block of Garrett Road, and I wanted to know if this situation has been addressed or remedied. Do you know if anything's been done about that?
I can't hear you that clearly, but maybe you're talking about the, what was on Facebook.
Yeah, the 4100 block.
That was addressed immediately by code enforcement and,
It's like last Wednesday, it was still a problem. Because
Well-
somebody posted it 2 weeks ago and then last week again.
right.
Okay.
I think last week was when we learned of it, and from what I understand, we went over there to address it
Okay.
immediately.
All right. I just want to make
So-
sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Then I wanted to find out, we were told from Brinker Simpson a while back that the 2021 annual audit would be completed in December, and we haven't heard anything. Is it done yet?
No.
No.
Have they been here? Has the audit, no, I mean, has the auditor been here?
Yeah, I would assume the auditor has been here, but it's not finished. As far as council president knows, the audit is not finished. Or the finance committee.
So the update, I was going to say, Donna.
So are we looking at like February, March? You think? Thank you. Okay, then the last thing, regarding some budget and agenda items. So on the agenda, there's ordinance 3131 regarding the 2.5 million ARPA revenue replacement. And it says it's to supplement, the agenda says it's to supplement the 2022 budget, but the ordinance itself says it's for 2023. But if it is for 2023, then why is there the first whereas clause in the ordinance saying, talking about the budget, the 2022 budget that was passed in December of 2021? I think there's still confusion there as to what these funds, where they're for. I know they're for 2023, but the language keeps referring to 2022. And I think that's got to be cleaned up. Then the agenda item also lists ordinance 3131. Later on in the evening, after the budget passing, so I'm not sure how you're going to pass the budget before you pass that ordinance. And then ordinance 3132, which was tabled last week, which was the tax levy, but that's not on the agenda at all. So I'm curious about that.
Next week.
Okay. Okay, but so you can pass the budget without passing the tax increase?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 3130, this is the last thing. There's the reallocation of the unencumbered 2022 appropriations and in particular solicitor's fees. And I want to know whether the questions that were asked last week regarding the fees have been resolved.
We will have those answers tonight
Thank you very much.
under old business.
Thank you very much.
Yes, in Becky's time and her time.
No,
she
No,
didn't
no,
sign
no,
it.
no, no, she deferred,
She
she
didn't.
deferred her time. Joanne's not on the
She
list.
didn't sign
Joanne's
in.
not on the list.
Joanne didn't sign in.
It's all good. I got it.
Next is Bonnie Hallam.
Bonnie Hallam, 4719 Woodland Avenue, Drexel Hill, PA. First, I'd like to congratulate the mayor and her administration for their efforts in establishing the first-ever homeless shelter in Upper Darby. I know there were a lot of collaborative efforts to make that happen, but Stephanie Sena, a friend of mine, specifically told me that without the support of the mayor, this would not have happened. So congratulations on making that happen. Tonight, hopefully, you will pass a budget that is both fiscally responsible and forward-thinking for Upper Darby residents. During the past few council meetings, there has been a lot of public comment. I'd like to address two things I have heard. One, someone suggested that everyone should be checking out the budget because when companies like Arthur Anderson can commit crimes, we should all be able to understand the budget on our own. And when an accounting firm such as that cannot do it right, then we need to be responsible to figure it out on our own and make sure that it's right. To me, this is a ludicrous statement. Most of us don't have the knowledge or the skills to understand a complex budget or an accounting system. That's why we do our best to hire a reputable accounting firm to take care of it. That's the smart thing to do. Of course, any company could get embroiled in a scandal, but our hope is that we pick a good company that knows what they're doing, that does excellent work, and that is ethical in what they do. The second thing I'd like to address is what all of us can understand, is that during a pandemic, municipalities did not bring in the usual revenue and had to spend more to provide services for residents and deal with all of the issues created by the pandemic. There has been a lot of talk about the horrors of the administration having the lowest fund balance in years, but that's exactly what the federal government recognized and why they provided ARPA funds to replace lost revenue. I hope that tonight we can recognize the simple reasonableness of this and move forward with the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. Next is Myron McNeely.
Hello, I'm Myron McNeely. I live 7116 Hilltop Road. And I'm here. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor for doing such a good job. I appreciate you, and I thank you for that. I'm here also to address the power grab that took place on this council by 3 Democrats. And I want to address that because it haven't been corrected for some reason. And I know it's a power grab because the people that did it hate Republicans. They wouldn't do nothing to work with Republicans, but they can do a power grab. And I think that's something that need to be corrected, and it should be done as soon as possible. And again, just like I said, the power grab took place by 3 Democrats, and they know it. They know what they did, and they need to correct that power grab and let the Democrats run this council like they're supposed to. Because it was once mentioned in another meeting that when McCosey was here, we didn't have this problem, and they're right. We didn't have a power grab take place on council, one, but we did have a lot of theft in this building, and that's something that they said that took place under Ms. Barbara Ann's regime, which didn't take place. So I think this need to be brought to the surface, and I think it need to be dealt with, because this power grab shouldn't continue to go on. Okay? And y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Brian Taylor.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Taylor.
Brian Sharif Taylor. My address is 7258 Landport Road. I am basically a resident, a father, a husband, but I'm also a founder of a nonprofit organization called Taylor Made Vets. Sometimes I think I have to make sure people actually know our mission statement. Our mission statement is to help not only our veteran community, but to also help our civilian community, dealing with the different resources that are either federally involved, county involved, or locally involved. I think this actually creates a better mindset within our communities. And we not only do we do this work within the state of Pennsylvania, but we have also moved on to the state of Florida and also the state of Maryland. Recently, we held our first Women's Veteran Health Forum. I actually would like to expand that to our civilian women within the area. See, a lot of times within the past, you might think when we talk about either donkeys or elephants, things get confused and then things get out of place. Because the thing is, the most important people that we are serving are the people that are behind us. And then when we don't take care of those that are within us, we can never call ourselves leaders. I don't have nothing really prepared, but I just have really something on my heart. I looked at the weather report, and I know it's the holidays, but I know it's going to be about 17 degrees as a high on maybe Saturday and Sunday. And I'm blessed enough to have a home, but I know that there's going to be others that are going to be out in the street. And the reason why I'm saying this because, well, we live in Upper Darby, and the train station is located right there. And this is where you're going to find most of these folks during the cold blue area. I know there are many shelters that are being opened, but my real question is, when these shelters are full, is there an emergency policy put in place to help those who do not have nobody when most of us in here have someone to go home to? I'm sorry. I'll say the question again. We have many shelters that are in place. There is a holiday season that is going on. Most of us are going to be with loved ones. But while you are sitting there with your loved ones, you also have to think of those who do not have. So my question, I would say again, is there an emergency policy in place? I know most of this is usually handled county-wise when it comes to the cold blue, but we are the biggest area. And I use the word we because we are all in this same building together, and I see a whole bunch of leadership around me, to my left, to my right, and to my front.
Mr. Taylor, if you're asking if the township has,
Yes.
is doing it directly, no, we work with the county.
Well, let me say this. I understand that. But just think of maybe just putting maybe something in place for this weekend, just in case, because we wouldn't want to lose one life because they're out on that street. I'm not coming here to bash you. I'm in a groovy mood. Like I said, we're blossoming to Pennsylvania, the state of Maryland, and the state of Florida. So I thank the Most High. And I never like saying I always like saying we. I just proposed the question.
No, I think you're right that, I mean, there's conversations that happen with our first responders about things like this, but I don't have the details for you right now.
Okay. Did I use my time up, or do I have enough time?
No, you're good. You have a
Okay,
minute. You have a minute. You have a minute.
Are we closer to, I know you can't really answer this question, but are we closer to solving the police contract? Okay, that'll be.
Still in arbitration.
Still in arbitration. All right, that is my time. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
So, Mr. Taylor, I will personally reach out to Stephanie Sina and find out what the plan is for the weather tonight, for the weekend, this weekend. I know it is a cold blue, but you're talking about, you're talking.
Every Thursday night, we see people down there, and we get to the point now where we're gonna see their hands turn black because it's so cold. And we call, and we can't get beds in. I'm one of the people that try to do it, and nothing ever happens. We invite everybody to come down there. Miss Wentz, yes, she comes down there and sees it. Nothing ever happens. I have to tell these people, no, I can't help you tonight. You know, here's an extra blanket.
She can come and talk over here.
If it wasn't for us going down there, actually giving these people blankets, these are mothers and fathers and daughters and brothers.
And children.
If it wasn't for people like us, the community members, going down there and helping those people, who would do it? Nobody. So why don't we get some help? Why don't RWB get some help? We've been begging for years. We get nothing. Maybe somebody can help us, because I know where I'll be Thursday night. I'll be down there with the people I've grown to love. And everybody else dismisses them. Help me help them. How's that? I'm sorry. It's just I'm passionate about that.
You're fine. Next up, Secretary Billups.
So, I just received a text, from someone that's on the board, and she said it is a code blue, and they're on the board, and they can only take 17. I'm just reading the message. Don't shoot the messenger.
At Breaking Bread.
At Breaking Bread,
Community.
yes. Next is Rich Bly.
Rich Bly, member of Taylor May Vets, 7258 Lamport Road. I'm here because I would like to know, first of all, is the superintendent of police on this Zoom? He's not?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so? Okay. I want to put this out in the public. I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking behind his back. But I just had a case dismissed from Upper Darby Township from charges filed on me for harassment, bogus charges. The video shows clearly that I was not an aggressor, that I backed away from a situation from a drunk belligerent that was at the Fresh Grocer parking lot drinking Four Loko at 11 o'clock in the morning. The video shows that the only person that instigated anything that was a hostile threat was the woman who was the person that was the witness for the police and for the Commonwealth. The only person that interjected any threat to anybody in Upper Darby Township was the witness for the police. There were people that testified, an investigation was done by Detective Marvel, and it was determined that viewing a video that shows me clearly backing away, that shows me that I was 10 feet away from this person, that shows that I walked off away from a confrontation, that there was no witness statements taken on the scene at the police department, nothing, but I was charged with summary harassment. Now, here's the deal. You can go ahead and bring charges, but why did I also get from Judge K at the municipal level a bench warrant 2 days after getting charged with a summary? Nobody in the history of Upper Darby has ever been charged with a bench. Oh, I got the paperwork. 2 days after a summary charge is filed, I get a bench warrant put on me. That meant that I had to go spend some money to retain a lawyer so that way I could fight this in court. Now, Judge Bradley is the president judge? No? He's one of the great ones, though, because he saw through the farce that Upper Darby police put out and said that Rich Bly was harassing somebody, and it showed clearly, and his statement was, the video speaks for itself. The video speaks for itself. So I want to know how much money you spent on having a bogus investigation on me for harassment charges. I think that the taxpayers of Upper Darby Township need to know how much money you spent on a bogus, lying charge of harassment, and that you're going to sit up here and you're going to question the judge's decision. You're going to take it even further. You can't. It's called double jeopardy. You can't charge me for the same crime. How much money are you going to spend keep coming after this black man because you don't like my speech? How many more times are you going to discriminate against me when you blocked my speech for 2 years where I couldn't speak up here for 2 years? This is targeted enforcement, and everybody's watching. You're doing the same thing from the 60s. I know, I'm from that era. I'm not stupid. See, that's the problem with a lot of you up here. You really think that every black man that comes up here is an idiot or hostile. I'm smarter than some of you up here right now because you keep coming after me the wrong way. I see it coming before you even do it. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, Michelle. Don't you see me up here? Don't you see them throwing these weapons, woman of God? Do you see what they're doing to a black man? You see it, right? 1960 style. The playbook's the same. That's what my father taught me. You could be a puppet. Anybody else could be a puppet. But guess what? The truth is the truth, and God shines through. I'm going to keep telling you that. I'm not the man of God. I'm not the servant of God. I'm the vessel. That makes me the tip of the spear. That means I will be used in the nature that he wants me to be used. And I'm going to use my voice to uplift my people. I'm going to make sure I protect black women and black children. I'm going to make sure I give our history the correct way. So every time you come after me, remember this. You came after Muhammad Ali, Clayton Powell. You came after Malcolm X. You came after them the same way. You did the same thing. You tried to sully their name in the community. You try to degrade them in front of their community so that way they don't trust you. That's what you did. So I want the video because I'm going to put that out publicly. And I'm going to put out the transcript. I'm going to put that out publicly because I'm going to show the people just how prejudiced and racist you are.
Thank you. Next is Colleen Kennedy.
Are they our Christmas cards?
Sort of. You'll see. Colleen Kennedy, 8723 Westchester Pike. So I will talk about the thing I'm handing out. Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. It's sort of like a Christmas card, right? All right. Colleen Kennedy, 8723 Westchester Pike. So I have a couple of things I just want to quickly go over, and then I'll tell you a little more about the card. So first off, I'm asking that we hopefully pass the budget today, and I'm hoping that every single person, I'm not saying this in a partisan way, will reflect over the holiday season about ways we can make the budget negotiation process easier and better and more responsive to the public for everyone. I think it's a tough moment that we're in, that we're trying to drastically reduce the budget. I think that those sorts of comments would have been better and more useful earlier in the process. Additionally, I am hoping that you will leave wasteful legal spending in this year of 2022. Electoral fights need to be left for Election Day. And in the meantime, if you have true concerns that are can I pause until that? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll do my best. So I just, I feel that if we have reform conversations that we want to have about how our fiscal policies are created or how our money is spent, we should keep having those conversations, but I'm hoping all the rest of it can be left in 2022. I also just wanted to talk to you about some quick information relating to that card from my organizer colleagues and I. As some of you may know, there is a proposal underway at the county council level for a juvenile detention center. Many people in the community are opposed to this, and we feel that there are better ways to spend the tens of millions of dollars toward preventing the need for such a facility. Different needs that are in our community, like what the audience member said about how we're in a code blue and we don't necessarily have a plan or resources for the homeless. Those are different things that we can be working toward. The card that I handed out is for a town hall that is happening on January 12th, I believe. And we hope that folks will turn out. We are also going to be planning town halls similar to this in Upper Darby as well. And I believe it'll be recorded. I'm hoping that everybody comes to the table with ideas and can learn from people who are actually directly impacted by this issue. And then, just give me 1 second here. Oh, and then I would just also finally say that I know we have like rules of decorum and rules of how the meetings are run, but I feel as though we can create some flexibility for folks who are signing in for meetings, at least when they're new to the process. I think every time that someone comes to a meeting and has input to share with our government, I think that's a good thing. And so I think if we can have flexibility for our elected officials, we should also have it for community members so that they can speak. So I'm hoping that you'll come out to the town hall. This is going to be a very informative event. I don't think anybody in front of me has necessarily lived experience in juvenile detention, but I hope that you also read the grand jury report. Kids from our community are being sent into juvenile detention. We have a stake in this fight, and I think that we should contribute our ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Next is Olivia Taylor.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent. When I got home from the last meeting, what I do is go back and I listen to what I've missed. And then I specifically heard Barbara Ann say what you were doing with Yaden was a humanitarian thing. And I damn near fell on the floor. Started to almost laugh, but I couldn't because of the state that the township is in. Humanitarian. Have you looked at 69th Street lately? The new facility that just opened up only has 17 beds. So what about the other people? It's going to be a code blue, as Brian said. How many people got to freeze to death and lose their life this weekend? And you don't have anything in place, right? But here we are, the biggest, one of 6 biggest municipalities, millions and millions of dollars coming in this township. And you can't get a church, you can't get an abandoned building, you can't do nothing. Are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? But you're a humanitarian. And I want to speak back on to that Yaden situation. It was a group There's only a couple of them here tonight, but these were the same folks who marched up and down our streets of Upper Darby screaming, defund our police. Now they need their help, which is an absolute disgrace. Then had the nerve to come to this podium and say, oh, I really hope that none of the crime over there comes here. Well, you should have thought about that before you marched up and down our streets defunding our police. And for security reasons, I'm not going to go into detail, but we all know what happened here. Not only did you put the township in jeopardy, you put the residents in jeopardy, you put our police officers in jeopardy with your BS. And now you need their help. And by the way, anybody from this group, the station needs help. Have you volunteered? Have you filled out an application? No, but you want to put more workload on a department that's already stressed. Yeah, right. And then say Yaden is broke. If Yaden is broke, how they paying her? If Yaden is broke, how are they paying her? Because they have a 30 million, excuse me, it's my time, I didn't interrupt you. They have a 30 million tax revenue every year, okay? And they got ARPA funds too. So how the hell are they broke? And if they're broke, how are they paying her for the prisoners coming here? See, all you gotta do is just sit back and let them dig their own grave. Stupid, stupid. And then to find out, the men and women who worked in COVID, they got their pay, but you stole it by taxing them. Here these men and women, again, put their lives on the line. In a national pandemic, they were supposed to receive $3,500. They only received $2,300. And some of them still didn't get their COVID pay. Nobody from this council has brung that up?
No, we have multiple times.
So,
Why
Ms.
have that not been made public?
In fact, I've sent multiple emails just in the last couple.
So where's that money that she took from the workers? And
Ms.
nobody
Taylor,
knows.
Ms. Taylor,
What?
I'll give you your time back, but, there's not a check in the world that's never going to be taxed.
Excuse me?
Yeah, when you
Are
get a
you
check from the
kidding me?
government, you're going to have
Brian,
to
you
pay
sound
taxes.
stupid.
You
That
gotta pay
check could have went
taxes.
straight to them. How dare you try to justify them? First of all, you didn't say anything about them blowing through the budget. Now they done took the money that was owed to these people. And are you kidding me?
That's ARPA
They could
money.
have got a
Has nothing
straight
to do with
check
the
for
budget.
$3,500. I'm not trying to hear you, okay? Because if you're not, matter of fact, you were on board with this Yaden nonsense too. Are you volunteering at the station to help our police? Or did you fill out an application? In fact, where you going to be when this is over? Will you be out on patrol tonight?
Ms. Taylor.
Will you be out on patrol? Will you be down at the station helping them? No, none of you will. But yet
Superintendent
you want,
Bernard,
excuse
Super-
me, stop interrupting me.
Okay.
Where are you going to be? Will you be down at the station? Because I doubt if any of them, the ones who wanted to fund our police, will be there. Will you? How about it, Heyman? You wanted to fund our police. You didn't do it publicly, okay, because of your position, but you were down with it. Yes, folks, him and Tunis both. Okay, you two.
Complete
You
lie.
two.
She's just lying.
Yes, you two.
As usual.
Yeah.
Councilman Tunis.
Oh, that's Tunis. Okay, that's the one who uses the race
Apologize,
card, but
President
yet
Burke.
he can sit
She's
here
a
and let the
liar.
biggest
She lies
slumlord steal from every nationality in this community and not say a word. Really? But my point being is that there's a lot of people going to lose their life tonight, and she's going to sit here and look stupid. Outrageous. None of you have said a word. And she's not going to take credit for that new homeless shelter. You had nothing to do with it. Give me a break. People get out and vote and throw her ass out of here. Nobody to applaud to clap for me because I'm speaking the truth. I don't care if you like it or not.
I would just like to remind all council up here that if you would like to speak, raise your hand, and I will call on you without interrupting. So
You had some nerve. You interrupted me, but it's okay.
I was trying to answer you, Ms. Taylor. Thank you.
Good night. See, I didn't call you.
President Burke, I'll make sure to raise my hand. I do apologize for that.
And, yeah, that's it for,
Secretary
for
Phillips,
public-
thank you very much
Yeah.
for the public forum. Next, 8.0, the Honorable Mayor Barbara Ann Keffer, please.
Good evening, everyone, and happy winter solstice. The trash to recycling schedule will be altered for the next 2 weeks to accommodate our winter holidays. There will be no trash to recycling collected next week, on Monday, December 26th, as we celebrate Christmas Day. Also, there will be no trash to recycling collected on Monday, January 2nd, in observance of the new year. Please visit www.upperdarby.org/trash to see how your pickup will be affected by the holiday schedule. Our website also has an excellent translation option for our neighbors to get township information in their preferred language. You can also sign up for Delco Alerts to receive updates on changes to the trash schedule by visiting www.delcopa.gov. On the agenda tonight is a resolution to reappoint 3 members of the Zoning Hearing Board, Aaron McPherson, Marguerite Wilson, also known as Peggy Wilson, and Bob Gwynn. All 3 have been serving on the Zoning Hearing Board for a while, and during their time, they have excelled in their roles serving our community. I am asking for a motion to reappoint Aaron, Peggy, and Bob to the Zoning Hearing Board.
I'll make the motion.
So moved.
I'm sorry. So we have a motion first by Councilman Hayman and a second by Councilman Siddiq. Any comments?
Yeah, can we, I wanted to make a motion to separate them and vote on them separate. Can we do that?
I'll second that.
Solicitor?
So there is a name, of course it's, okay. Is there a particular name that you would object to?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So obviously, the motion was to approve this resolution as a whole. If there's a name we want to take off, maybe we take off that name, see if the motion in the second could be amended to reflect that.
Gotcha.
Trying to do it process-wise, right?
I get it.
Before I would entertain amending my motion, I'd like to discuss which name and why. Maybe I can guess.
So you can ask which name, and then we can have a discussion. Or which names?
I'm going to guess Peggy Wilson because she has you guys in court for violating the Open Records Act for $500.
For what?
For what?
For taking you to court for your violation of the Open Records Act. You're in court. She's suing you right now. I can read the docket number if you'd like. You know about it. Lost the appeal with the Office of Open Records.
Bottom line is I'm fine with Ms. McPherson and Mr. Gwynn. You are correct. I would vote no against Ms. Wilson.
Right, because she has you in court, correct.
No, I actually didn't provide a reason, Mr. Hayman. So your sarcastic comments, although you love to make them, are not necessary at this time. I told you who it is that I would vote no for, and that position stands.
Well, your dishonest comments, while you love to make them, still stand. This is textbook retaliation. Ms. Wilson submitted a right to know request to this body on February 15th for text messages and correspondence relating to legislation on February 7th. Ms. Wilson was not provided those documents. Mr. Boggs, since they pertained to the motive for the investigation, submitted a response denying the request, saying that to effect, he didn't know those documents did not exist when he asked for them. The Office of Open Records responded, saying that it was irrelevant whether or not the documents existed when they were asked for, but whether or not they existed when Ms. Wilson asked for them, which they did. And currently, I believe this is being litigated by the Court of Common Pleas.
It was stated that that had.
Vice President Wentz, I got it. Please do not speak unless you're called on. And I'm not interrupting you. I'm continuing with you. If you like me to answer that, I'll answer that.
Sure.
Okay. Would the law firm of Kilkenny please answer that question? I don't want him to answer that question because we are being represented by Mr. Kilkenny's firm right now. It's ongoing litigation. My position is she's not entitled to them, and I don't want my attorney right now answering that question.
I'm not going to answer that question, and that's why I believe what we were dealing with is with the people that made the motion in the second to adopt this resolution, accept that amendment. I think that's what we're going to deal with.
Yeah. And if they don't accept it, then we'll.
Then you could vote it down if you like. What I would caution folks to do is,
So any appointment to the, and I don't want to go long, to the zoning hearing board has to be by resolution per the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Whatever we do, not going to get involved in your business, who you appointed, don't appoint, but make sure we appoint, that we have a standing zoning hearing board, because if we don't, when applications are received, within 90 days, we have to take action. If there's not a sitting zoning hearing board, anybody putting an application in would be deemed approved, right? So I just want to caution council about that eventually, so you're aware of all that.
So,
And deemed approved means they get whatever they want in front of the zoning hearing.
So Solicitor Kilkenny, I do have a question here.
Sure.
I think it's very odd and really not common that three people would be on a zoning up for reappointment. I believe there's a issue here that somebody missed an appointment last year on their term expired in December. Am I correct?
I believe that's, I believe Ms. Marcini looked into, and that's correct. Yes.
Okay. And what happens then? If that person should have been reappointed last December and wasn't reappointed, so that particular person really doesn't hold the position.
That person is not on the zoning hearing board, you're correct.
So for the last year, that person really isn't on the zoning boarding commission. Am I correct?
Not.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
So why are we asking for that one particular zoning boarding hearing person to be reappointed if she's not on the committee? So this resolution is not correct. Am I correct or not?
I have a question.
Councilman Tunis, raise your hands and.
I have my hand up.
Anybody
You're not
that
paying
lives in
attention. I
Upper
have my hand up.
Darby
That's
concern.
correct.
It's up to the mayor put forward Ms. Wilson's name.
But it says reappointment. She's, that
Then
one
that might have been a
particular,
typo or-
well, now it says reappointment, and one particular person's term expired last year. So I don't believe this resolution fits.
You could put in,
It's-
you know,
there's a-
Brian Smith of Drexel Hill, and it would still be fine. I don't know what I'm trying.
Kind of seems like we're doing a little backpedaling after we said that it's not correct.
I'm not saying one way or the other. All I'm saying is you should appoint someone to the zoning hearing board eventually, so you have. a stand.
Eventually, that's correct.
what I'm trying to say.
So what I'm trying to say of what you just told me, 5322 does not exist due to the fact that one of the board members is really not on the committee.
That's, I also disagree with you, President Burke. Marge Wilson is hereby reappointed, okay? It could be appointed, reappointed, it does not matter. What matters is her name, she lives in Upper Darby, and her term. That's what matters.
But her term
But
expired
you can put
last
it in-
year.
You could put it in another name. It does not matter.
Okay. So I'll put another name in.
Okay.
Am I violating any Sunshine Act if I put another name in as president of council?
No, because on the
Because-
agenda, there was appointments up to the zoning hearing board.
Okay. I would like to put Becky Dugan on it. Do I have a second?
We have to see if they accept.
Okay.
Becky.
Does
Yeah, and I have
anybody
my hand
accept?
up. Everyone's been able to comment. I haven't been able to say anything. And my hand's been up.
Okay, so Councilman Tunis, we're going to let you speak.
Finally,
Thank you.
thank you. And thank you for,
I got it.
yeah, is somebody on hand duty, on Zoom duty?
The problem is, if you're not here to do Tunis.
Okay, well, sorry, I went me for a second. I just want to talk about the optics of this. Councilman Heyman stated the events that have happened over the last 9 months. Optically, if my colleagues won't state their reason on why they don't want Ms. Wilson on a hearing board, it leaves the public no other option but to think the reason is because you guys in a lawsuit.
Mayor appoints, but they have to.
Yeah, the mayor makes the appointment. Rather, Ms. Wilson's term expired last year. She was on zoning board at one point. So in my opinion, that's just semantics. I think we should just think about these things optically because it looks like someone's being punished for taking a step and just submitting a right to know request. I would just ask my colleagues to state or at least inform the public on why they do not want Ms. Wilson to be appointed.
You can move Bob up.
Right.
And Solicitor Kilkenny, I was just wondering if the mayor makes the appointment, how can the president appoint someone to the zoning hearing board?
So first of all, I do think, I don't want to speak for the mayor or council at this time, but I do think there's been at least a temporary solution to this, Councilor. Dennis?
In consultation with the mayor and with President Burke, I'm willing to amend my motion to replace Ms. Wilson with Bob Gwynn, and then with the replacing of an alternate at a later date.
So Bob Gwynn then would be for the term to expire December 31st, 2023.
That's correct.
We just appointed him as the alternate not that long ago, correct?
He was filling a vacancy when, I think when
Councilman Heyman left.
Councilman Heyman was sworn in.
I'm just trying, just to make it clear or I don't know, clean. He would just be moving from alternate to, right?
Yes, correct. And then if council so chooses, the mayor so chooses nominating council wants to affirm, you could pick another alternate, Right.
Vice President Wentz, go ahead.
I'd like to say thank you, Mayor Keffer, for agreeing to that. I think Councilman Gwynn, former Councilman Gwynn, when he was on the zoning board, he was chair of the zoning board. He attended all the meetings. He was an avid participant in zoning board meetings before being appointed as the alternate. And he's a great asset to the zoning board. So I really appreciate that suggestion. Thank you very much for
So
considering that.
on the amended version of Councilman Heyman, do I have a first? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Vice President Wentz. So the motion to adopt with the amended version of Ms. McPherson and Bob Gwynn will be moved from alternate to zoning, and at a later date, we'll discuss the alternate. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Thank you.
You guys on Zoom? Tunis and, Councilman Tunis and Jusko?
Sorry, we were synchronized.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Mayor.
I'm still. Okay, also on the agenda tonight is my final proposed budget. The budget has gone through 2 public hearings in November after multiple meetings between the finance staff, department heads, and members of council. After the public hearings on the budget closed and just prior to the December 7th council meeting, the Council Finance Committee requested $1.7 million in budget cuts. In an effort to work with the Finance Committee, Deputy CAO Dobbins, Donna Stillwell, Controller Diane Scuddy, met with Councilors Heyman and Andrusko the following Sunday evening and agreed to $1.1 million in cuts. My proposed budget incorporates them. This budget proposes a 3.5 millage increase and the use of $2.5 million in ARPA revenue replacement funds. As acting finance director, Donna Stillwell has stated on record, in 2020 alone, the township suffered an over $8 million revenue shortfall caused by the pandemic. I would also like to add that on the agenda tonight is the public hearing on the $2.5 million revenue replacement funds, and that this is the 6th time that some form of a revenue replacement ordinance has been on council meeting agendas this year. As members of council have voiced concerns over the township's lack of a robust fund balance and possible lack of funds for police back pay when the contract comes out of arbitration, I believe my proposal addresses these concerns, uses a small amount of the eligible ARPA revenue replacement funds, and has the lowest tax increase to our residents while preserving critical municipal public safety and public health services. We haven't raised taxes in the last 2 years. The tax increase with my proposed budget is estimated to be 2.7%. Again, this is the first tax increase over the last 3 budget cycles, which would average out to less than 1% a year. Before I ask for a motion for my budget resolution, I would like to ask Jack Regan of UHY to come to the podium and explain the purpose of ARPA revenue replacement funds for the record. Donna Stillwell, our acting finance director, is still here to address any questions the council may have.
Just before you start, Mr. Reagan, one question, Mayor. Is this the mayor's budget or is this council's budget?
This is the mayor's proposed budget.
And whose budget is it? Is it a council budget or is it a mayor's budget?
According to the Home Rule Charter, the mayor proposes a budget and council passes a budget. Because I propose,
Suggest the
you're
budget.
interrupting me.
Okay, thank you. It's the council budget, not the mayor's budget.
It's the mayor's budget.
Okay,
It's the mayor's proposed budget, like I said.
proposed. Keep it as proposed. It's not your budget. It's the council's responsibility
No, it's the mayor's responsibility to propose a budget.
to uphold all ordinances and to keep the budget in line. That's correct. That's your
Okay.
job.
Do you have to weigh in here, Solicitor?
Are you asking the solicitor to weigh in, or were you asking, do I have to weigh in on the conversation?
You're already weighing in.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
asking the solicitor.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I think it might be a matter of semantics here. Yes, the mayor proposes a budget, but it's council's decision whether they want to appropriate money and such. I was asked by President Burke if the mayor had the ability to propose a budget. I emailed him a section of the Home Rule Charter saying the mayor can propose or put forward ordinances and resolutions, which is part of a budget. Council can so choose to vote it down, table it, whatever they want to do. And my understanding is they have their own version of a budget later on the agenda. I
No,
believe that's-
that's not correct. That's incorrect. 4922 has been on the budget for X amount of meetings. That's not our resolution. That's the original mayor's resolution that the Finance Committee has been working on. To go back to, that you emailed me this afternoon about certain, I believe it was 403, 304, is that correct?
I can pull up the email. Yeah, it was right out of the Home Rule Charter.
Out of the Home Rule Charter. I believe there was 2 sections. And one of the sections says something about the mayor upholding all ordinances. And we're going to get into that in old business about upholding all ordinances. So I just want to make it clear that everybody did receive that email from Solicitor Kilkenny. So thank you. Mr. Reagan, if you're ready, go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Jack, J-A-C-K, Regan, R-E-A-G-A-N, no relation. Managing Director with UHY. Appreciate the opportunity to speak at your meeting this evening. We've had certainly numerous conversations with staff and including some folks up on the dais as well about various ARPA matters. With regard to the revenue loss, you have considerable flexibility on what you're allowed to use that money for. Broadly construed, it is governmental activities. So whatever you choose to appropriate, once you begin to spend that money, you're going to need to point to a specific expenditure upon which you intend to spend that governmental activities. Broadly defined, it's actually for revenue loss, it's more what you can't use it for. You can't use it for tax relief. You cannot use it for pension and post-retirement health care contributions. You can't use it for litigation costs and settlements, and you can't use it for debt service. Other than those 4 items, you have, as I said, considerable flexibility on what you're allowed to spend this money on.
I think I was in a grade school class.
We'll start with Councilman Silva. We'll start to my left, and after we get through the table, I'll look up at Zoom for the hands up. Councilman Silva, go ahead.
Yeah, specifically, I guess, on the proposed budget of 5422. So we had come up with a millage rate increase basically with 4922. It would have been funded entirely by like a millage increase. Doesn't 5422 provide kind of tax relief by using ARPA to offset the budget?
I think the way that it is interpreted is, again, as long as you're specifying the expenditures against which you are using that, that revenue replacement, that it becomes an allowable expenditure as long as it's on a governmental activity.
So like if items in the budget are used that are like admissible, I'm a little confused how you can offset the revenue to pay the operating budget that would otherwise be funded by tax dollars. With ARPA funds, that doesn't then become tax relief.
Because that's at least the interpretations that I've seen. Again, as long as you're specifying which expenditures you're funding with the ARPA revenue replacement dollars, it's not considered tax relief.
Okay.
You're specifying the expenditures that you are that you're using the revenue replacement monies for.
Okay, and then another consideration, if it's essentially in the future, I guess, like, would through contract negotiations or something, if there was like a retroactive back pay or something, would that be an admissible use of ARPA funds?
Yeah, I mean, again, provided you have enough revenue replacement money for that sort of expenditure, then that would be considered a governmental activity if it's retro pay.
Okay. But you're.
If it's a litigation settlement, if it's a punitive litigation cost,
No.
then it would not be eligible. But if it is retroactive pay, then it would be an allowable governmental activity that could be funded with the revenue replacement dollars.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. Those are my questions. I appreciate it.
All right, one down.
There you go.
I felt like I was in a grade school class.
Councilwoman Wagner?
No,
Oh.
it was me.
Councilwoman Farrelly?
So, yeah, so my question was that I know that Councilman Silva and Councilwoman Michelle Billups were working with you for funding for the ARPA money for like rec department and stuff like that. Is that, it's all rectified and we're ready to go with applications or? Yeah, the nonprofit.
Go ahead, the 145 million.
We're just waiting for the website to go live, which is still supposed to go live in mid-January. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, I appreciate the diligence that folks have taken in creating this application process and allowing us to bring some of the ideas that we've put in place in others localities for creating such a program and tweaking them to meet the needs of this community. Again, I think it is a best-in-class way of doing this, where we're going to be laying out the application criteria. Applications come in, processes, we're going to vet those first to make sure the applications are complete. It looks like the intended purpose, the verbiage that we get in from them on what they want to use the money for is ARPA allowable, so that when the decisions get made about whether or not to approve the application or not approve the application, or we need more information, that's sort of the green, yellow, red framework is something as we go down the road that I would encourage Upper Darby to adopt. You know, we're giving you packages that are complete and are ARPA allowable, and then it is up to you to approve or not approve. I want to make sure everybody is very clear. We don't approve anything. We're your consultants on this, your compliance managers. And what I want to make sure you understand is that we're doing all that legwork for you. So all you're doing is reviewing applications that are allowable under the rules. You're not wasting your time with anything that's not.
And how long does that process take? Just,
So I can't remember, do we have a 60-day application window?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And what we're going to be doing as we get those applications in, we're going to be reviewing them so that as after the application window is over, that, you know, you're going to have a complete list of allowable applications. I will tell you, my experience has been, in spite of everyone's best intentions. Anywhere between a third and a half of the applications come in the last several days before the application period. So I'll ask for your indulgence in that first week after the application period is over to get through what I have historically seen as that mad rush to get those applications in at the deadline. The other thing that I'd encourage you to do is to wait until the end of the application window to adjudicate any of the applications up, down, or middle. That's an equitable way to do it. Someone who may have better resources puts in their application first. We don't want to have a rush to the front of the line before money, quote, runs out on these. And by holding off on the ultimate adjudication of the applications until after the end of the application window, gives someone that submitted on day one an equal footing for someone who submitted on day 60. The other thing I will encourage you to do, and we will do for you, is, at 11:59 or whatever the deadline is on day 60, we're taking the website down and nothing will be accepted after that. We will get some sob stories, but we, in order to be equitable to those that did play by those rules, I would encourage you to, hold strong and not accept applications after the deadline.
All right, thank you.
Vice President Wentz.
So thank you so much for being here, Mr. Reagan. To continue on this line of thought, I had sent proposed an ordinance that I sent to you about special allocation for emergency mitigation of emergency. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it with me. I don't have the right term.
Yeah, there were several organizations where there was going to be directed funding towards
Yes,
them.
directed funding. So the Finance Committee had originally, when we met with you and Claire and Donna and Diane before about concerns about the new homeless shelter, Breaking Bread community, as well as our 5 firehouses that, were essential, all of which are essential for mitigating the effects of the pandemic. And sorry, I did not get a chance to check my email before coming here, and I wasn't sure, was there a specific form that those nonprofits should fill out separate from the other one, or should they fill out the same one so that we can get the right information?
Yeah, I would suggest that they follow, providing the same information as is in the other package, because that is very closely aligned with the ARPA regulations on what information needs to be provided. My correspondence back on that was to ensure that before that ordinance passes, that someone, i.e. us, I would hope, would vet whatever information comes in to make sure that they are allowable uses under ARPA, so that you're confident that.
Okay, great. Then I will work on getting those applications to those nonprofits this week so that we can get that back as soon as possible. And as per Councilman Silva's question about the tax relief, you said that not for tax relief. And you also said that ARPA funds cannot be used for tax relief. It can't be used to lower the taxes. And if I'm not mistaken, it can't be used to balance the budget either, correct? Because when we talked before, we clarified that ARPA funds should not be used to balance the budget, that we have to be able to balance the budget on our own without ARPA funds.
Well, I think what I said in that case, and if it didn't come across this way, I apologize that I misspoke, is using ARPA dollars to fill that revenue loss hole, or to quote, balance the budget, is an acceptable use of ARPA because that can be a governmental activity. My issue is that unless you do other structural changes, whether you increase revenues or eliminate expenses, at some point when the ARPA money runs out, you still have that hole. So what the point I was trying to get across that did not come through as clearly as I would like is that using ARPA dollars to balance the budget in this way currently, while allowable, is not structurally sustainable.
Okay.
Because the money's going to go away at some point.
Right. So, and then you also just said this evening that in order to use lost revenue, ARPA lost revenue in the 2023 budget, then it has to be specified how it's being spent in the budget, correct? So I'm looking at the expense part of the proposed budget, and there is no indication on the expense side that any of these line items or like top, it's the roll-up basically, right? That any of it is being used, the ARPA funds are being used for. So how do we, I mean, what you're saying needed to be here isn't here.
Well, I can't speak to what does or does not need to be in the budget resolution. What I'm saying is when the choice is made to use ARPA to fund that hole, and then you begin to expend those monies, at that point, you begin to expend those monies, and you say, I'm going to pay for this out of general revenues, I'm going to pay for this out of grant revenues, I'm going to pay for this out of ARPA revenues. That's at the point where you're initiating that transaction is when you need to make the decision which bucket you're going to be paying it out of.
Right, but for council, we're the ones approving the budget. And so I would think that it would be listed what funds would be used by ARPA on the budget so that it's clear to everyone how it's being spent versus nothing being listed as being paid for by ARPA.
Again, I think that is your prerogative on how
Excuse me,
you want
Vice
to
President Wentz.
do that.
Mr. Reagan doesn't believe that you can answer that because it's not a line item. You're just saying when it comes down to it, they need 2.5 million to balance the budget. It'll have to be used for what ARPA can be used for.
Correct.
Right. And at this present point, a line item budget does not reflect what you're saying. And that's
I'll
not,
take
that's
your-
not,
I'll take your
that's
word for
that's
that.
not you. You're just holding up, the rules. So, I think
That's
we
what
got
you're
our
paying me to
answer.
do.
I think we got our answer from, Mr. Reagan, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Those were my.
Thank you.
Council-
And just
Councilman
as
I'm sorry.
one additional
Sure, Council.
comment, just as we were developing, again, this not-for-profit application process, again, I think that the folks that came to the table with that, asking tremendous questions, created a very good framework that I think that the citizens of Upper Darby can have some confidence in the way that the process was developed, and hopefully they'll have just as much confidence in the way that the process is adjudicated. We're going to make sure one other thing that's out there during the 60-day application window will be made available to applicants who may have questions about how to fill out the application. We work closely with applicants during that process as well to help make sure that the language in the application aligns with ARPA goals. We've done this with a lot of localities, and we will also hold a webinar where folks can join in. We record it so that folks can play it back at their infinite leisure and, help provide some helpful words to make sure that the applications that come in do align with the priorities that are in ARPA.
Okay, just one question. Is there any reason why we're waiting to the middle of January? Or is that just what you have planned, or you can do it January 3rd?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go back and talk to the team about when the website's going live. But, I think it was waiting on a final sort of blessing on the application itself.
We have the blessing. We have the approval from the committee from council.
So then I'll get with my team and get back with staff to let you know when we can launch that, portal.
Thank you. Councilman Heyman.
Just to clarify, just because I don't know if the statement was really available, or was understood by some of my fellow council members, how much money are we allowed to use in Upper Darby for revenue replacement from our ARP funds?
So that's a loaded question. And the reason it's a loaded question is because the statute allows for actual revenue loss, a way that is calculated in the ARPA regulations, or $10 million. You get $10 million, no questions asked.
Yep.
Don't have to do the calculation or anything else like that. But there's a nice algebraic formula that gets applied with actually a fairly healthy growth rate of 5.2%. So the number could actually be greater than 10 million, depending on the way the calculation shakes out.
Okay. And just to be clear, how much money do we have sitting in the bank right now in revenue replacement funds?
In revenue, I mean, I
Funds,
don't know.
funds designated, ARPA funds. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Vice President.
Vice President Wentz, please. I believe we have most of our ARPA money sitting in the bank, because I don't believe most of it, 10% hasn't been spent, I'm sure.
I'm
Goods haven't come in to actually pay the bills.
Okay, well, so I'm speaking specifically about revenue replacement. I believe we designated $11.7 million. There's $11.7 million set aside for revenue replacement.
That sounds right.
I think
That's
it's
correct.
up to 11.7. I don't think we allocated 11.7.
So as Mr. Egan just said, just to clarify, he said it's actually up to, per the final rule, it's up to 10 million. But as he said, there's another equation, the 5.2%, based on annual revenue subtracting actual revenue. So that number could be larger. We have a particularly large budget, and I believe that's where the $11.7 million. So we have $11.7 million that have yet to be appropriated by council sitting in the bank right now they cannot be spent until council passes an ordinance approving them. So ordinance 3131, I believe. Yes, 3131 that we have up for a vote tonight is to only approve 2.5 million of the 11.7 that we have available. But even if that 5.2% equation is in dispute, the minimum amount is $10 million that we are allowed to claim. Correct.
10 million, no questions asked.
Correct.
He's saying we're using 11, okay.
And I
Council
believe
President.
11.7 million is through
I got you.
2020 or 2021?
I know.
I know.
21, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was through 21. So, again, not to get into too many gory details about revenue loss, but I'm going to anyway.
Please do.
You will update that calculation for 22. We'll update that calculation for 23. And you'll be able to update that calculation through 24.
Sure.
So there's some upside. Again,
That's right.
most tax revenues aren't growing at 5.2%. So there's going to be
No, it's not. It's a matter of
additional
time to
revenue loss available if you choose.
Go ahead, Mayor. You wanted to say
Thank you,
something?
Council President. Mr. Reagan, I just want to be clear that the way that I'm proposing to use the ARPA funds, in light of the fact that we had over $8 million of revenue loss due to the pandemic in 2020, council up until this point has only released $6 million. That was in February this year. I am proposing 2.5 million in revenue replacement. And I think that covers what we already lost and that we know we lost in 2020. And then we have way more than $2.5 million of ARPA kind of approved expenses in the budget. So I'm just asking, this is the way I'm thinking about this?
I mean, that makes sense to me. And again, as Councilman Heyman said, we've got considerable flexibility below the $10 million mark. So once you get above that $10 million mark is when the actual calculation of the actual revenue losses kick in, and we have to monitor that delta much more closely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Tunis?
Yes, I just had a question in reference to the lie that I heard in the community about that we can't use this funding. However, you've cleared that up. So thank you, Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Councilman Tunis. Councilman Andrushka?
I'm good. No comments from me.
Okay. So since we're on the budget, question to Solicitor Kilkenny. Does the mayor and the administration have to adhere to the budget throughout the course of the year? Do they have to follow the budget? And if they don't, what happens?
So the budget is, in my estimation, yes, you should try to follow the budget, but the budget is not a direct, it's an aspirational document. You estimate things the best you can, and that's the reason why you do have to shift around categories and such later in the year to address those changes that happen. But the budget should be the administration and/or council's best estimate of what next year's expenditures and obligations will be.
But I'm asking about following the budget.
I think I
The
answered.
the budget, the amount of money spent. That's what I'm asking.
Well, sometime, the amount of money spent.
Yeah, if you overspend and, we'll just get a tram, we'll cover it, we won't pay bills, or do whatever. So, I mean, you know.
As I said, the budget is the best estimate at the time that council and the administration have. Not only Upper Darby, but other places amend, change budgets, reflect line items throughout the year. It's common.
Okay. No budget's ever been amended since I've been here, so, except in the last week or two, so, okay. Anybody more questions for Mr. Reagan?
No. So it's the mayor's time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank
Do
you,
you
Mr.
need me to
Regan.
stay for any further discussions?
Just get back
No.
to us when we can go
Oh, yeah,
live.
get the,
That's all.
the application date up. And again, want to commend everybody for the work that they've done to date on this. I know it's been a bumpy process, but we're getting there. And again, I do appreciate the process that folks have gone through, especially with this nonprofit application. I do think it's comparable to some of the best processes I've seen around the country.
President Burke, I
Go
just
ahead.
had one more. Councilwoman Billups, the application that you all approved, is that the one that
That's what he was
that
just talking
Reagan
about.
had sent out? So you didn't make any changes to it?
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
Not perfect, but nothing is 100.
It's as good as it's going to get.
But it's in line with most people when they apply for funding.
Yep.
With nonprofits, it's in line with those.
Great. I just wanted to make sure that I could forward that one. I just want to make sure there hadn't been any changes to it. That's all. Thank you very much.
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you much, folks.
Mr.
Appreciate the
Thank-
opportunity to come here and to serve the citizens. Really do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. So, thank you for all your questions, council members, concerning the use of revenue replacement funds. So, as I was saying, we haven't raised taxes in the last 2 years. The budget I'm proposing and the one that I support uses $2.5 million out of the $11.7 million we have right now sitting in the bank for revenue replacement. It would require a 0.35 millage increase, which translates roughly into a 2.7% tax increase. In comparison to the other budget on tonight's agenda, that proposes no use of revenue replacement and a 0.66 millage increase, which is much closer to 4.7% of a tax hike. So I think and appreciate the work that went in, and it was at the last minute to make that, for the cuts that we made in the budget. So the budget I'm proposing incorporates those cuts, incorporates the revenue replacement money. There's also a slight tax increase, and I think this is the best budget that we have that keeps spending in line, keeps the millage rate as low as possible, and provides our residents with the public safety and the public health and other municipal services that they are used to and that they need. Does anybody on council want to make a motion
I'd like to make a motion.
on this budget?
I'll second his motion.
So we have a motion from Councilman Tunis, a second
To
by
approve
Councilman. Hubbard.
resolution number 5422. I'm sorry, I just wanted to specify.
Any discussions? Vice President Wentz.
So I know that last week I got a lot of people complained about an email that I sent out, the night before, asking for some adjustments to the budget. Though this one also, after the Finance Committee had met with the mayor and Finance Department and Treasurer Heyman on Monday afternoon, they came to a balanced budget, which didn't include ARPA funds, and was agreed upon by all. And then within a little while later, this new one came to service. So I personally haven't had a chance to look through everything. I am very concerned that the 2.5 million you are proposing of ARPA funds is not specified on the budget expenses that it would be used for ARPA fund, like what would be used for ARPA, especially after Jack Reagan had said that it has to be specified. So
We said it doesn't have to be specified and that it has to be used for ARPA approved expenses. That's what he
right,
said.
but it's he also said you needed to be clear on what it was going to be spent on. And if you're not clear now how the money is going to be spent on ARPA, then there's no way for anyone to know how it's being spent specifically.
Then vote against it, Councilor Wentz.
I'd like to make a motion to table it because I'd like a little more time to look at it because we just got it today. Yesterday. Actually, we just got it yesterday.
I would like to add that on December 7th, I did say that's how we got to this place where this amendment or with this ordinance was advertised and introduced, right?
Right, but we
Because
ju-
I said I wanted 2.7% tax hike with the $2.5 million in revenue replacement spent. So this isn't really brand new.
You also didn't have the budget prepared at that time, at that meeting. You didn't have a budget for us to look at. So now that we
On the
have
agenda
it,
either.
now that we have it, I'd like to make a motion to table it to give us a little more time to look at it.
Okay.
So,
No, there isn't yet. I am gonna second it, just to next week.
Okay.
So then the vote on the table comes before the vote on the ordinance.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Can we have a
the
discussion?
Resolution.
Resolution, yes.
Councilman Tunis, I saw your hand. I acknowledged Councilman Hagan to make sure it was you. That's why I'm deferring to Solicitor Kilkenny. I believe Councilman Tunis asked if we could have a discussion on
Tabling.
tabling it.
Yeah, she just got a second.
Okay, I just want to make sure you wanted the discussion.
Yeah.
was on the table. That's all.
By the way, residents are stating they cannot hear us in the mic. So council members, if you could just speak into the mic. Yeah, I think none of this is new. I think we even made a compromise to kind of get to this point. My friend from the 3rd District, Councilman Andrusko, met with the administration, agreed to cuts. He, to my recollection of my memory, he agreed to vote to advance a 2.5 million ARPA replacement under the condition that the administration would agree to cuts in expenses. I believe those cuts were made. I think it's best if we vote tonight and move the township forward because, to be honest, the resolution that the finance committee is proposing will almost raise our taxes to 5%. I'm not supporting that. Just letting you all know that straight up. The resolution that the mayor's provided, which has a solution, right, that we can use, that Jack Regan says we can use after Councilwoman Wentz said that wasn't true, which was a lie. We just heard that today, that was not true. So maybe her interpretation was different, but we as council need to approve the budget. This waiting a week, I mean, we've all been aware of this. We've known about this. We've compromised. We've worked together to kind of get to this point. So I'm gonna ask if we can just vote against the table and pass this resolution tonight and move the township forward with a budget.
Councilman Tunis, thank you for your words. I'm going to bring up Ms. Stillwater. We are going to table. Ms. Stillwater, you're going to come up and talk, and then we're going to vote on the table.
I just wanted to
And
make
just
one.
to be clear, 1 second, 4922 is the original proposed budget from the mayor, correct?
4922.
Yeah. The resolution. That's,
No, 5422.
54 is the one that came across the table last night. And that's what's on now. But 4922, the mayor and Mr. Tunis reverted to saying it is the finance committee resolution budget. Is not. It's the original 4922, which Brinker and Simpson, the Finance Committee and the Finance Department came with. Am I right that they've been working on? Just to make it clear.
Yes, so there
Thank
were,
you.
there were two things. The mayor wanted to put forth a budget that only had a 2.7% increase or 0.35 mils using 2.5 of the revenue replacement. So to address Councilwoman Wentz's concern about the budgets, there's only one difference between the budget from the Finance Committee and the budget from the mayor, and that is the millage on the council, from the council is 0.66, using no ARPA funds. The millage increase from the mayor's budget is 0.35, using ARPA funds. They're the only differences. So as far as all the line items, that's the only difference, is in the budget where you're using the ARPA funds, the real estate taxes are lower because you're able to use ARPA funds to offset some of the expenses. You can allocate them all to the police department if you'd like. And then in the budget from the council that we reviewed on Monday with Treasurer Heeman and all those who are on the call, it is the 0.66 one that we had agreed to. So there, I just wanted to explain the differences. There's not a material difference between the two budgets. It's just using the ARPA funds, not using the ARPA funds. The line items themselves did not change. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
Thank you, Mr. Little. We're going to go to the table question.
President Burke, can I speak about those?
Are you going
Tabling the
to,
question?
Councilman Heyman, are you going to say any more than Mr. Little just said?
I just want to bring up a couple of comments that were made that one, but in getting to this, that, Vice President Wentz says that they didn't have enough time to review the budget. That may be the case, but this is the product of a negotiation that began 2 weeks ago. Further, the budget, or an initial budget, preliminary budget, was presented by the mayor, I believe, to the Finance Committee almost 3 months ago. There have been multiple budget hearings. We have had multiple council meetings. We have had who knows how many Finance Committee meetings. The budget was not considered in that time period. Further, the criticisms of the email that she's referring to was not that complaints about adjustments to the budget. It was complaints about an attempt at extortion.
Okay.
All
right, so let's stick on top. Let's stick on the top. Let's stick on the topic of the budget, please.
Councilman Andrusco, who's here tonight, obviously virtually, put forward what I thought was an extremely reasonable request 2 weeks ago tonight here in this room. He said that he was willing to move forward and vote to introduce and advertise Ordinance 3131, predicated on a deal that there would be an agreement to discuss budget cuts. He even said in that meeting that he was willing to consider, his goal was approximately $1.7 million in cuts in expenses. The budget that we have presented, that from what I've looked at tonight, is something like 97% of the increases in that budget are for police, fire, and sanitation. Councilman Andrusco, as we've now discussed multiple times, met with myself, with the administration. Ultimately, it was agreed upon that there would be $1.1 million in cuts. I would like to hear from Councilman Andrusco. I plans to vote on this because that deal, that agreement to negotiate was predicated on the $2.5 million in rescue funds, and it was not predicated on a budget which includes a millage rate of 0.66, increase in 0.66 mils. I think that while I certainly disagree with some members of council fundamentally about the need for ARP funds in the first place, I appreciate that step that he took, and I would like to hear from him.
We will hear from Councilman Andrusco on the vote. We'll have a roll call on the table. We're going to have a roll call on the table. We're going to have a roll call on the table. Thank you.
So, excuse me.
The table.
Yeah, so this is a vote to table the 5422. Councilman Heyman,
No.
Councilwoman Blackwell,
No.
Councilman Andrusco,
Yes.
Councilman Sadiq,
No.
Councilman Faralia,
Yes.
Councilor Silva,
Yes.
President Burke,
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a no, Councilor Wagner,
Yes.
Councilor Tunis,
Nope.
and Vice President Wentz.
Yes.
You know the deal.
Thank you, Secretary Billups. That will be tabled. 5422 will be tabled. Anything else, Mayor Keffer?
Just that I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you next week. Same time, 7 o'clock.
So, okay, thank you, Mayor Keffer. As the mayor says, we'll see you next week and hope everybody has a nice holiday. We're going to move to Finance and Appropriation Committee.
I just have a quick question, President Burke, sorry, for you.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yes, in the last meeting, I witnessed that you wanted to censure Councilman Heyman. Can you please explain to me what censuring a council member is and why you want to come to that decision on any council member, just so that council members know moving forward how that works, so we can kind of have an idea.
Sure. Solicitor Kilkenny, you can answer.
The question's
sure.
for President Burke. Thank you, Solicitor Kilkenny, but the question is for President Burke because he is the one that stated he wanted to censure the only Jewish council member on our council and didn't provide a reasoning. So I just want to know your reasoning. Solicitor Kilkenny, I understand your position is what's in the home rule charter.
Did you read, Councilman Tunis, did you read your email today from Solicitor
Sorry,
Kilkenny?
I'm not on the main
Did you
line.
read your email today from?
Did not.
Vice President Wentz, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Councilman Tunis. Did you read your email from Solicitor Kilkenny today?
I do not have access to my internet.
Okay. So I'll let you, so I will let you.
So you have no answer.
I will let you listen to Solicitor Kilkenny. Thank you.
Sure. I was, a couple things. Number one is I had a very good conversation with President Burke and the mayor on our agenda call. We talked about rules of protocol for council. One of the things we talked about is a lot of the times council members had been, talking over each other. So please direct those, any kind of questions or concerns you have to President Burke, and he can direct that and let other council members finish before moving on rather than interrupting. It makes for a much better flow. As far as censure goes, I sent it around to my law firm about censure. Censure is basically a statement by council of Upper Darby or anywhere else saying that, you're in violation or you acted in bad faith towards the rules of Upper Darby or another municipality. In my experience, in my firm's experience, it's been used twice, once in Fulcroft Borough, and the other one in the municipality of Norristown. I actually, when I spoke to President Burke about it, I informed him it's really a slap on the wrist and really only has ceremonial ability, and that, most places in the end of the day choose not to use it. And that's the extent of my conversation with President Burke.
And at the present point, the conversation was on, excuse me, Councilman Tunis, I do not have a mute button. And if I had a mute button, I'd be able to mute anybody on Zoom. So basically, we got to the conversation that it had nothing to do with Councilman Heyman. It had to do with all council people. That's why they all received it. The lovely, Secretary Billups always jumps in, and we all jump in. We're just trying to make it better.
And I'm going to continue to jump in.
I know you are. So, but it had nothing to do, I'm not going to go there, Councilman Tunis, but you went there, and I don't believe you should have went there. Just like last meeting, it's nice to be nice. So I am going to say that I had a conversation with the solicitors, and it was not directed. If it was directed to Councilman Heyman would have been the only one that got the email, but everybody got the email.
It's just the only reason why I brought that up is because earlier this year, I believe it may have been the Law and Government Committee, there was a censure item there too, and I believe it was targeted to Councilman Heyman. So when I heard you say that you wanted to censure him in the last meeting, I just was like, oh, this is kind of a pattern. And I want to just make sure that we're not targeting individual council members. I do apologize, you can't mute me, but you can always censure me.
And I believe Councilman Heyman, when he received that email, knew it was to every council person. Go ahead.
President Burke and Councilman Tunis, I appreciate you bringing that up. I will say that with all due respect, I don't agree that anti-Semitism was the intention of any censure attempt. I don't think it was based in that, and I think that general bad faith actions, dishonesty, and personal petty political behavior are perfectly reasonable explanations prior to anti-Semitism. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm sorry if that came up. What I will say regarding the Falcroft censure, since coincidentally that was one of the cases obviously that was looked into, and so it's something I actually am familiar with, was that pertains to a specific admitted violation of State Ethics Act by a now former elected official. He admitted publicly, said he was proud and he would do it again. And it was actually the exact same violation that Vice President Wentz committed in May of this year when she came out of an executive session and gave a play-by-play rundown of what had taken place.
Councilman Hayman,
I say this,
Councilman Hayman,
say
you know,
this,
state
President-
your point and that's it. I mean, you called, we had a 5-minute recess last meeting. You know, I never have my phone on. You called me, you apologized, and then you apologized. So we got to continually to bring this up. And you're always throwing a card out there. I just don't understand you guys.
what card am I throwing out there? That
What
you're
card are you
acting in
referencing?
bad faith? I'll keep throwing
I'm
out
not
there since
acting
you
in
are.
bad faith. You apologized to me on the phone.
I apologized to all of council publicly in
No,
that
you
meeting.
did not. You're wrong.
Yes,
You
I-
forgot
well,
Vice President Wentz.
I didn't forget Vice President Wentz, Burke. It was because
said
of
you
Vice President
apologized
Wentz,
to
and I
everybody.
don't apologize
You said
to
you
Vice
apologized
President
to
Wentz.
everybody.
And I will continue to call out her
So
behavior
on
in every
the
meeting,
same
and I
bad
will not
faith-
be intimidated. It will not
I'm
stop.
going to call the question.
Hey, you're breaking, you're breaking your own rules. You're
I'll
breaking
take
your
my
own
censure with a
rules.
lox and bagel, President Burke.
You're breaking your own rules. President Burke, you just was talking about decorum and you're breaking your own rule.
He said he apologized to everybody.
Okay, so he apologized to everyone. So can we please move on?
Sure, we'll
Can we
move
please
on.
move on?
I was just about to suggest the same thing.
Thank
It
you.
was just point of order, if we could maybe return to the agenda.
Yep.
that
Thank you.
we-
So we're back to the
from
agenda.
15 minutes ago or so.
So Vice President Wentz, Finance Committee, Resolution 4922.
Yes, thank you, everyone. The Finance Committee members are Councilman Silva, Councilwoman Wagner, Councilman Andrusko. Before us, we have Resolution 49-22, the approval of the 2023 budget. This is the one that the mayor did introduce in October, that has been worked on by the Finance Committee, the Finance Department, Councilman Hayman and Councilman Andrusko with the Finance Department a couple of weeks ago. It has been worked on by a whole lot of council members, and it was my understanding, and Treasurer Hayman, and my understanding was as of Monday afternoon, they were in agreement for a millage rate of 0.66, which has been mentioned. It is lower than the millage rate originally introduced with the budget. Originally, that was 0.88. So it's been reduced to 0.66. I also remember Ms. Stillwell mentioning in multiple budget hearings that because we had not raised our taxes for 2 years, we were far behind on our revenue because we had no new funds coming in to balance the increased costs of the contracts and all the other costs as a result of the pandemic. And that in theory, from this point on, we would have to at least raise the taxes 0.5. I personally, no one wants to raise taxes. Not a single person at this table want to raise taxes, but we do want to balance the budget. We want to make sure the township has the funds they need to do what they need to do. And therefore, you know, I just wanted to clarify the difference between the budget we spoke about earlier. So is there a motion to approve 49-22, or is there?
I'm going to make a motion to table it.
Okay, okay.
Second.
So we have a motion to table 4922. We have any conversations about 4922? Okay, so we have a motion. I'll call for a roll call. I mean, I don't need a roll call vote.
We should do a roll call.
I'll call for what I'm going to call for. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
Okay. The ayes have
No,
it. We're
no or
tabling it.
nay?
The ayes have it. We're tabling it.
Okay.
All right. Next up,
So then next we have public hearing on ordinance number 3130, or public hearing on ordinance number 3129. But before the public hearing, can we get a brief synopsis of this ordinance, just to remind everyone on what it's about?
Sure. Thank you very much, Vice President Wentz. I know this was discussed previously at a council meeting. Section 1 talks about attorney's fees and collections under the MCTLA, which is a state law that deals with unpaid taxes. There is a very lengthy fee schedule for attorney's fees, collection fees, and bookkeeping fees, which I did read at a previous council meeting. Just wanted to see, did anybody want me to read them again? Everyone kind of understands.
Okay.
Okay. There is interest. There obviously Portnoy serves as special solicitor for this purpose. There's severability and an effective date. So this is essentially what's before council.
thank you, Solicitor Kilkenny. So I'll officially open the public hearing on 3129. I don't see anybody from the public. Anybody from the public from 3129?
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent. Is this the ordinance that was referring to the solicitor's fee?
No.
This is not-
This is the, it's updated. They've worked for us for the last 3 years, correct? And they're just updating
Their
collection
fees.
fees and fees to
Portnoy
bring up
for
the standard.
delinquent taxes.
Delinquent taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So officially, I'm going to close the public hearing. Anybody from council?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 3129.
Do I have a second?
Second.
First and second, first by Vice President Wentz, second by Councilwoman Wagner. It's an ordinance, so I have to have a roll call on 3129. Thank you, Secretary Phillips.
So this is a roll call vote on ordinance 3129. Counselor Hayman.
You and don't.
He just stepped out.
Oh, okay. I'll come back to him. Counselor Blackwell.
Yes.
Counselor Andrusco.
Yes.
Counselor Sadiq.
Yes.
Counselor Farralia.
Yes.
Counselor Silva.
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a yes. Counselor Wagner.
Yes.
Counselor Tunis.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice President Wentz.
Yes.
Okay. And you said to wait for,
Nope.
It's 10-0.
He
no,
missed the
oh, it's
count.
10-0.
10-0 now,
Sorry.
we don't have to wait.
Oh, Jesus, guys.
He missed
Make a
the-
mistake,
the vote.
you know.
Oh, whoa,
People
whoa.
shoot you.
All right,
Me.
so 10-0 on 3129. Thank you.
So
Next up, we
so-
have a public hearing on ordinance 3130.
Thank you.
Can we get a reading or a brief synopsis of
And
3130?
I do want to say something here too. This ordinance that was put forward under the solicitor section, the 101-434, there was an adjusted ordinance sent where it said that was put in there and it was made to approve, but would require another motion by council to go ahead and approve that. So I just want to make sure, for whatever reason, that version is not here, but that was the version.
It didn't
that
get
council asked
updated,
for.
right?
Yeah, I just want to be clear.
Right, because we had amended it.
We amended it to.
Okay.
So Department Appropriations transfer from Leisure Services, $373,616. Information Technology, $254,416. Human Resources, $91,539. Parking Enforcement, $54,557, for a total of $774,128. Department Appropriations transfer to Public Works Vehicle Maintenance, $371,730. Finance Department, $202,816. Solicitor 101-434, which will also require a future motion or approval by council. Administrative services, $80,929. COVID-related expenses, $12,823. Human services, $4,396.
Okay. So I'll officially open public hearing on 3130.
Joanne Namavong, 133 North Pennock. I just want to be clear. So are you saying if you pass this motion tonight, it's going to have a caveat that 101, the solicitors will not get out that allocation until some other motion passes, and that will come from leisure services? So the leisure service part will be less? Like the money's coming, it's good as like information technology, human resources, parking, those three numbers will still remain the same, but then leisure services will only allocate what's there less 101 until you make another motion.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that correct?
transferring unspent money to other line items. And on the solicitor, the 101, yes, it requires another action by council.
Or it could be,
But it's coming from, it's going to be the leisure services part, correct?
or it could be amended,
Okay, all right,
but we have to go through the public hearing.
okay, thank you.
Anybody else on public hearing on 3130? Seeing none, I'm going to officially close 3130 on the public. Council?
I would like to make a motion to amend 3130. I believe that there are still some questions on some of the solicitor funds. So I'd like to amend it to 50,000 instead of 101,000.
And then any future allocation will be by a future motion of council. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Or, I mean, but if I don't get a second, then I don't get a second to my motion. I just.
Councilwoman Wagner?
I mean,
I can.
Are you trying to make, would you like Vice President Wentz to rescind her motion for another motion? Or another amendment?
yeah, I'm not prepared to allocate any of it at this point. That's why
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
struggling.
then I'll rescind it to, or I'll change it to the removing of the 101,434.
I'll second that.
Okay, so right now we have an ordinance 3130. Vice President Wentz has amended $101,434 to be removed from ordinance 3130. And we have it first by Vice President Wentz and seconded by Councilwoman Wagner.
And then, right, and then I do like the residents' suggestion of reducing leisure services, the amount being taken from leisure services, and changing that to 27,
I don't know if we can do that.
or we have to do the math, right? It has to,
I don't think that needs to be done.
well, it has to be balanced,
Okay,
so.
all right.
Unless Mayor Keffer has a suggestion, or Donna has a suggestion.
Donna's not here.
She's not here anymore, of where the funds come from to balance it.
Okay, so, well, as Solicitor Kilkenny speaking to the mayor about that, I'm going to go to Councilman Heyman, then come back.
Okay, thank you.
Vice President Wentz, I apologize, I didn't have the ordinance in front of me when you first made the initial suggested amendment to the solicitor fee, but I do have it in front of me now. I would be willing to second that motion. I think we should approve all of it, but I'd be willing to second the motion to approve half of it tonight, if you'd be willing to re-amend the motion. I don't even know how the mechanism we would use.
But we're going to have to vote on, somebody would have to, Vice President Wentz would have to
I already.
rescind her second motion, so I don't think she can do that.
Would you be able to rescind the second motion? I'd be willing to approve.
She should rescind her second motion, take it out, or you can just approve it, but not, and obviously the solicitor fee goes nowhere until there's
Right.
a future action of council. So then there could be an action of council
Because-
just to approve $50,000 or
Yes,
whatever number.
yes.
Right.
So,
That might be the
Okay.
easiest way.
That-
so,
So
okay.
technically, we're under the original motion, is that correct?
No, we're on the motion right now. We have a first and second on the Solicitor 101,434 completely out of the ordinance.
Correct.
So I'm going to call for a vote since we have a first and second.
Councilman Andrusco hand has
Okay.
been up, and I
Uh,
raised my hand, and then
Okay, I'll get
Mr.
to,
Silver spoke.
but you
I
didn't
get
say
you.
anything to him when he
Okay.
spoke out of turn.
Well, we're getting a little mixed up with somebody trying to second because they didn't have it in front of them. So I'll go to Councilman Andrusko, and then I'll go to Councilman Silva, and then Councilwoman Blackwell, okay? But we got a little into the weeds with going half the money again. So Councilman Andrusko, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, President Burke. Mayor Keffer, I was just wondering if there's any update on the discussion we had about these solicitor bills last week.
Yes, there is. There is also an update. I think I was kind of saving that for, I mean, maybe it's impactful here. Yeah, so there's a couple updates because a lot of them were about whether or not the administration had submitted these claims to the insurance company. It's related to the fees, right? So it's kind of a two-part. So we can do that. Solicitor Marcini has a timeline for the submission of claims to our insurance company regarding the various legal matters we're dealing with. And I also have a response, but I think Solicitor Marcini, maybe if you go first.
May I, Council President? Would you rather?
I think it is important since you're considering pulling all these fees out of this ordinance.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Solicitor.
All
Go
I'm going
ahead.
to say, sir, respectfully, is that the information was emailed to council, and we prepared a memo that indicates that all the legal costs associated with all of these cases were properly submitted to insurance. And we have copies which we submitted to council, and which I have copies here, if someone didn't get it, of all the insurance where they declined coverage.
Okay.
So there was no insurance coverage for any of the legal costs associated with any of these actions.
So all these actions were denied by our insurance carrier, correct?
Both, they even were submitted to the excess insurance carrier.
So they were denied by two insurance companies.
Yes, Travelers and Arch. I have
Okay.
copies.
So,
I'm sorry.
okay, so we do have them in our email box. So Kilkenny Law did provide us that information. So I did go through them. And so not only did we go through one insurance company, we went through a second, third party maybe insurance company, and they were both denied. Solicitor Kilkenny, you work for the administration, the taxpayers, and the council here. What is your opinion of the administration giving the go-ahead after the insurance company has denied it not once, but twice? And those checks being approved, those invoices being approved and being paid by taxpayers' dollars. And the excess of the amount per hour. And when were you notified about this? Last week? Or were you notified 3 months ago about the denial of the insurance company?
We had no knowledge of it till Solicitor Marcini and I talked to Ms. Dobbins, I believe, earlier this week, because we've been conflicted out, and I really had no knowledge of what went on, to be honest with you.
Solicitor Kilkenny, thank you for that answer. I believe there's an invoice that you had a conversation on with one of these solicitors on this topic. Am I correct?
On this topic?
Of the $101,000.
I've never talked to either of these solicitors ever in my life. I've never talked to the Muncie Fitzpatrick firm or the Malloy firm in my life. I say that honestly, I've never.
How about Mr. Rongione about this lawsuit?
Mr. Rongione would ask me about the lawsuit. I said you should talk to conflict counsel. I would say stuff like that.
Okay, and how do we act on conflict counsel through the administration? The same way council act on conflict counsel? Or do we just throw caution to the wind and just hire whoever we want?
I can ask, maybe the mayor can give an explanation of how she got to conflict counsel. I don't know.
I'm asking under the Home Rule Charter and the Administrative Code of, do we just go get whoever we want? I'm asking you,
The
the solicitor. I'm not asking,
service.
I'm not asking, no, this is conflict counsel. You came to council for the approval of Solicitor Kilkenny's firm. So if you're going for conflict counsel, why wouldn't you come for 6-5 vote or 7-4 or 10-1 for conflict counsel for a resident suing 6 council people? It wasn't a CAO. It's the resident, Vince Rangione. It had nothing to do with the CAO. I mean, it's plain in day. It says resident Vince Rangione. I'm asking Solicitor Kilkenny.
I've recused myself from this matter. I've done that since day one. I've not been involved. I've not appeared in court. When the administration or council have asked me that, that's what I have said consistently.
I agree. Mr. Kilkenny should not be commenting on this. I understand where he's coming from with that. I do understand what President Burke is saying, though. I think just to follow up with Councilman Andrusco, I think what we're looking for is a more detailed understanding of what the Fitzpatrick firm actually charged. And Councilman Andrusco, if I'm misspeaking, please let me know. But I completely agree that Mr. Kilkenny should not be commenting on that specific lawsuit. But what I think President Burke is trying to say is that that firm and their engagement letter was not brought before council.
Thank you. Councilwoman Wagner.
Can I make a motion to call the
Councilman
question?
Driscoll, Councilman Tunis, and then Councilman Heyman, and then I'll go to my left, since
I
I'm
was just
looking
wondering
at
if I could make a motion to call the question.
Councilman Driscoll was first.
He already
I
spoke.
called on him.
He
I
already
called on
spoke.
Councilman Driscoll.
But he already spoke. This is my first time speaking.
Councilman Driscoll
Yeah.
had the mic.
So you interrupted him. Okay, I understand.
Yes, yes, the president of council interrupted him. And I guess if I had a mute button, I'd have a mute button, but I
Can
guess
always
I don't.
censure.
Go ahead, Councilman Driscoll.
Yeah, sorry, just to follow up on Councilwoman Wagner's comments, the Mincy Fitzpatrick was one in question, and there was one other one, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the invoices now, where it was addressed to Mr. Rangione's home. So if we could also get further clarification on that as well.
It's Mr. Malloy's bill.
Mr. Moy, okay, thank you.
I don't know if she's appropriate. Okay. Yeah.
You want to respond, Mayor?
What was the question?
I just was trying to clarify what I believe Councilman Andrusco was saying, was that we're just asking for a more detailed understanding of what the Fitzpatrick firm actually charged us for.
So you're asking for invoices then?
Yeah. just
Okay,
a
all right.
little more
Well, I don't have them in front of me.
And I'm not suggesting that you do. And I'm also not suggesting you have Mr. Malloy's in front of you. But I think that's what we're looking for.
And I do believe the mayor has a letter from Mr. Scott that I think that's what she has in front of her.
Who's, yeah,
Bob Scott. Okay. Okay.
Who's paying for Bob Scott?
council doesn't, I don't understand what you're saying. I think Council President Burke started talking about this and you're mentioning it too. These are professional services. We engaged Bob Scott for a zoning hearing board matter originally. But when Solicitor Kilkenny recused himself of this conflict that we have regarding the CAO, then just went right back to Bob Scott.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Bob Scott, the resident, Vince Rangione's conflict counsel?
No, he's the township's conflict counsel, the administration's conflict counsel.
How can he be when the lawsuit is from the resident of Vince Rangione?
We're not in court right now, Council President Burke. I don't really understand what the question that you're asking.
Well, maybe you should read the lawsuit.
All right, I'm just asking for the invoices.
Oh, invoices, okay.
But I believe Councilman Tunis was next.
Yeah, and I will make a
Councilman
motion
Tunis.
to call the question. President Burke is saying all type of random nonsense, not related. Could we please call the question?
Yes, second. I
Yeah,
don't know if
first
we
and
had a
second, call the question. Okay, so we're going to vote. So you would like us to vote on 3130 with the 101,434 removed from the ordinance, correct? Councilman Tunis?
Oh, is that the
That's the
accurate
call of the
motion?
question, sir.
Yeah, was that the accurate motion that Councilwoman Wentz made, just for the record?
That is exactly the motion that was brought by Councilwoman Wentz and second by Councilwoman Farrelly. Thank you for calling the question, Councilman Tunis.
Okay.
We'll have a roll call vote on 3130, the removal of 101,434 from the ordinance, from the solicitor of the ordinance. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Hayman,
No.
Counselor Blackwell,
No.
Counselor Andrewsko,
Yes.
Counselor Sadiq,
No.
Counselor Faralia, Counselor Silva.
I'm sorry, if I could just have some clarification. We are voting now to call the question.
Or we're
Then we will
voting.
then vote on the ordinance with the item removed.
Yes.
Okay, then yes.
Actually, thank you for that clarification,
Yep.
because I think people were voting on the ordinance
That's fine,
itself.
that's fine. Let him go. Go ahead. I'm up next. I'm a yes.
Ooh.
Oh,
Rock it
nice.
out, Michelle.
Sorry. It's my food delivery.
Oh, good, food's here.
No, okay. I'm sorry.
Calling the question.
Calling
yeah.
the question.
Essentially cutting off the bait, that's what you're.
Yes.
Oh, we're cutting off the questioning. I mean, cutting
We're
off
calling
the.
the question.
Okay.
You seconded the motion.
Strike Burke.
I
yes.
did. Oh, I got you, yes. So, I forgot. I know, but what we calling, I thought we were
Just
calling
calling
the
the question.
question. I know, I thought we were calling the question about her motion.
No, we're just calling the question.
You
Stop
have to vote
discussion.
on the call of the question. You first and
Okay, I got
second
you.
it, and
I
then you
got you.
vote on it to call the question.
Okay, I got you. Then no. Counselor Wagner,
Yes.
Counselor Tunis,
Yes.
and Vice President Wentz.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Secretary Phillips. So now we will have a roll call
I'm so
vote.
confused.
We'll have a roll call vote on ordinance 3130 with the removal of solicitor dollar amount, $101,434.
That's what we was voting on. I'm so confused.
Okay.
Counselor Hayman,
No.
Counselor Blackwell,
No.
Counselor Andrewsko,
Yes.
Counselor Sadiq,
No.
Counselor Faralia,
Yes.
Counselor Silva,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Phillips is a no. Counselor Wagner,
Yes.
Counselor Tunis.
No.
Okay, 6-5.
Hey, what
Oh,
about
I'm
me?
sorry, Vice President Wentz, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 6-5. Next up, public hearing on ordinance 3131.
Right, that was just the amendment, wasn't it?
That was the roll call on to,
To remove it?
And the second was
yeah, it's passed. 6-5 to remove solicitor.
with the amended,
All right.
it's taking the 101 out.
Yeah,
Got it.
taking 101 out.
Got it.
Okay.
Next up,
So next one up is public hearing for ordinance 3131. Can we get an synopsis of 3131, please, solicitors?
Let's see. Now therefore be it ordained, and this was previously discussed, Upper Darby Township hereby makes the following supplemental appropriations for revenue replacement from the American Rescue Plan. Revenue replacement, $2,500,000. The third-party company will make any needed adjustments to ARPA allocations among departments to ensure compliance with ARPA guidelines established by the Department of Treasury. The compliance officer will bring any such adjustments to these allocations that are made to comply with ARPA guidelines to Mayor Keffer, the CAO, and the Upper Darby Council for approval by council prior to authorizing a township department to expend newly allocated ARPA funds. And 3, that the acting township finance director is authorized to establish the necessary accounts and accounting procedures to carry out the intent of this ordinance. There is a repeal or clause, and a severability clause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Solicitor. Officially open public hearing on ordinance 3131.
Joanne Namavag, 133 North Pennock. Can somebody explain to me what this first whereas clause is talking about? What does this have to do with 2022?
I don't really understand your question. It's very clear. Upper Darby Council adopted a budget for the calendar year 2022.
So is this for 2022, or you're saying you're taking it from 2022 and putting it in 2023?
Yeah, no, I understand what it says, but whereas clauses really just recite legislative history. It does not. What matters is what's after the therefore clause.
Okay, I just don't know why it's there.
We could take it out. It doesn't,
Okay,
it's not affecting.
I don't get to vote. For me, like when you put stuff about 2023 and then you go backtrack and talk about 2022, it makes it very confusing.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else from the public? Go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
They're
saying last year's budget.
If I may go back to what you all was just discussing as far as the CAO and our tax dollars that were used. How much of it was used from the taxpayers for his lawsuit against this council?
Not 100% sure.
So how was he able to get our tax dollars from the beginning?
President Burke, this is a public
So,
hearing.
so,
Ordinance
so, Ms. Taylor,
3131.
that's why we took it out of the ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll stick to 3131.
Okay, I mean, because there was
Thank you.
other people who have came before this council and interrupted the meeting, wasn't even public forum and spoke, so why can't I bring up something?
And,
Okay,
and that's why we took it out.
okay. So where does this lawsuit stand?
March 13th, I believe, so.
Thank you.
The other one's still March 13th, too. So,
But we're.
the one against us was dismissed. I'm
It's
sorry.
dismissed?
Yeah.
Yes, there is a God, thank you.
All right. Anybody else from the public on 3131? All right, I'm going to officially close the public hearing on 3131. Council, I'm going to start to my right and then move to the left and then look up.
Are you pointing at me
Yeah,
specifically?
yeah, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I didn't know if you.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was
specifically
waiting for
recognized me,
Sadiq. Go ahead,
President Burke.
Councilman Amon.
Councilman Sadiq, are you, do you intend to say anything about ordinance 3131?
I'm good.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure, sorry. So I think I expressed some of my thoughts already here tonight prior about how we got to the point where we're doing final approval for ordinance 3131. The final approval for ordinance 3131 is on our agenda because of an agreement to negotiate budget, cuts and expenses in our budget. And those cuts, I believe that agreement, I mean, regardless of the millage rate in the proposed budget, it's the same budget. So those cuts were agreed to, and it seems, so far as I can tell, that at least a majority of council, if not unanimously, council members agree that that budget is acceptable. This revenue replacement is to literally replace revenue lost during COVID. And I believe that we continue to lose. As Jack said earlier tonight from UHY, I think this is the responsible thing to do. I think I would propose to council members that they vote to approve this tonight, or some amount that would be acceptable to help soften the burden on our residents. I understand some of you in this room probably pay $15,000 a year in your property taxes, but I have constituents who make who pay $5,000 a year in their taxes and live on an income, a fixed income in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. My direct neighbor is someone who falls into a similar category. These people deserve us using the funds that we were provided by the federal government for its intended purpose, so that we don't have to increase taxes to cover that hole in our budget. It's not all of the funds. It is absolutely sustainable for the time being. And again, we wouldn't have this hole in our budget if it weren't for the pandemic. That's why the pandemic relief funds are so important. So I'd ask my fellow council members tonight, please think about the people who are living on the seniors on a fixed income and a small pension who can't pay their taxes. We've heard from residents in this council chamber recently about the need to keep tax increases low. I think that it's important we hear them. And so again, not to beat a dead horse, please vote to approve this ordinance tonight.
Thank you, Councilman Heyman.
Agreed.
Councilwoman Wentz, anything at this time?
Nope.
Councilwoman Farrelly? Yep.
I actually disagree with some of the things that were just said, that my understanding, and I believe I'm correct about this, is that two budgets tonight were tabled until next week. One of them includes this money, one of them does not, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So it wouldn't be that this was put on the budget or on the agenda through negotiation. It's quite actually the opposite. As a result of that, I don't think it's appropriate to move forward on this tonight now that both budgets are on next week. So I'm going to make a motion to table it.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, table 3131, with first and second. We'll bring it up for discussion. We'll go to Councilwoman Wentz, and then I'm going to go this way, okay?
So I just have a question for our solicitor, due to the fact that it's an ordinance, and if it's tabled, we don't have 7 days of advertisement between today and next Wednesday. So I don't think it can be tabled. Am I accurate?
It can be tabled, of course, but it will not be able to be enacted this year. That's essentially.
So it could be tabled and then voted on in January instead. But then would
But it wouldn't be part of the, yes, you could do revenue replacement at any time. You could obviously allocate money, but it wouldn't be in sync with one of the budgets. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah,
Right,
you can do
so-
revenue replacement at any time. You could approve an ordinance to do revenue.
would it mess up?
We
the
can agree to the
approval of it?
budget next week, right? And then,
100%.
January 4th.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, that part. Thank you.
Councilman Silva.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a similar question. I'm just,
Still needs to be 7 days before the meeting.
okay, so if this is tabled and then we approve the other budget, 5422, I mean, is it, considering these funds are expected to be in it, is that, I mean, we're able to do that?
I would not, so you can go ahead and, as I explained, you can allocate these ARPA funds at any time. When you pass a budget, the expectation, and I said a budget is the best estimate of revenues and what a township will spend in a year. Local governments are supposed to pass balanced budgets. So if the budget is out of whack, meaning that the funds are not actively transferred at that time, it could be argued that you passed an unbalanced budget.
Okay. I guess
So
that's
I'm
my
just trying to
concern.
throw that there.
So
Yeah.
that this, passing this in the 4th of January then would be, it would just basically make that other budget not possible.
No, it would make it possible, or it could be less than 2.5 million if there's more conversations on either of the budgets to cut. So it might not be 2.5 million, it might be 1.7 million. Conversations have gone a long way in 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. But, really can't pass this 2.5, well, you can pass it, but it's not going to go to the budget because we don't have a budget. We just tabled two budgets. So this can be passed in January or February because you got 10 months to put money into the budget. You can reopen the budget and have a hearing or add to
Well,
the
you
budget.
can reopen a budget after an election year. This is not an election year. You can reallocate ARPA funds. I mean, council could pass an ordinance to allocate ARPA funds. That's correct. That's correct.
So
Reallocate things, but you
Still a
can't
little
affect it.
Fuzzy on it, but
Not under our home rule charter, no. Only after an election year. You can adjust the budget line items to line items, but not,
I just,
yes.
All right, Secretary Belch.
yeah, I just have a question. So Donna Stillwell said that there isn't any difference except that one, like Councilor Wagon said, that one has the replacement funds and one does not. That's the only thing that, and different millage rate. That's the only thing that she said that was different, right? So next week, we're going to vote on two budgets with that slight difference. So I'm just asking the question. So what's going to change between now and next week? No, it's not, because you,
Yes, it is.
how?
Sure it is.
How?
We've already gotten to that point.
We've gotten to that point.
We were already doing it.
I don't think there's any negotiation going on.
Well, I got another 125,000 to cut after we leave this meeting.
Where you getting 125,000 from?
I will contact, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later,
You can tell
okay?
me later.
I'll tell you later. So,
Every
every bit hurts. Every bit helps.
You're right.
So.
It is unproductive because
So,
this
call the
thing
question.
it's been going on
Meg,
for so
call the
long,
question.
and we do need a balanced budget, you know.
The millage rate has to be set
And
to budget.
I know we're trying to get there, but I can't tell. I can't tell. You know, it's just so much back and forth, you know, about solicitor fees, and I know that's not a part of the budget, but and a lot of other stuff, right? You know, so I mean, I think I'm just gonna pray. And I know some of you guys might not pray, but I'm gonna pray that we resolve this issue next week and not have to go into 2023 with not having a budget. It's not fair to the residents, and quite frankly, it's not fair to any of us.
I'm going to make a motion to call the question.
I have a question before that. My hand was raised. My hand was raised before that.
That's up to you if you want to recognize her before.
You know what, I'll recognize Councilwoman Blackwell, and then we'll have the call to the question.
So just to make it clarified for the public, if we have an unbalanced budget, that means that we're running in a deficit. So if we're running in a deficit, that means that we will have to borrow money again. Is that accurate or incorrect?
That's what we're doing right now. We're borrowing 2.5 million from ARPA funds.
It's not a borrow, it's our money. It's the community's money.
We're not paying it back, like we didn't pay the 6 million back this year.
You don't have to, it's ARPA funds. God,
What do you mean, it's the same, you don't get free money.
what do you, oh my,
You're
geez.
gonna pay it sooner or later.
I'll mute myself. This is ridiculous.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for letting the taxpayers know about your concern for their well-being.
So the question was called, right?
Can I, Council President
Yeah, go ahead.
Burke? The only thing I would say is that, so next week, the millage rate is going to be voted on. So,
And the millage rate was voted on last year, and we were waiting for information from the county on all the nonprofit properties.
tax
and we-
exempt. Tax exempt.
Taxes, okay? And we lowered it, we set it high and we lowered it, correct? When we came to February.
No, you,
No,
No, you did it
okay,
at that
we did it that meeting
You
when we got,
advertised
we
higher.
advertised it higher, and then we got the
taxpayers
information.
have to be on notice by January 1st
Okay.
what they're going
So,
to.
that's fine.
So, and then I would go on to say, like, this is the sixth time that we've had revenue replacement on the agenda this year, and this looks like it's going to get shot down. When you table this, you've effectively shot down my proposed budget, just to be clear. That's what's happening.
And that's the one you emailed out to everybody at 7 o'clock last night? Is that correct?
I don't have my computer with me, so I don't know what time it was sent out.
Was it before
On December
4 o'clock
7th,
yesterday?
on December 7th, I asked for $2.5 million in ARPA funds
Mayor, I'm asking
and
about the one you came
2.7.
today.
And
I'm asking the one you
2.7%.
came today, Mayor.
Mayor,
with the
don't
new
worry.
number.
You could have sent it 2 months ago. We wouldn't have read
Yeah,
it.
and then we had to negotiate to make budget cuts. So yeah, there's been changes. Yep.
There's a motion on the floor to call the question.
We got a motion on the floor to call the question. Roll call on the call the question, please.
So just so I'm clear, and the public is clear, we are calling the question about,
Ending debate.
Ending debate on ordinance 3131. Then there will be a motion to table 3131.
okay. Counselor Hayman,
No.
Counselor Blackwell.
No.
I'm sorry, no?
No.
Okay. Counselor Andrewsko,
Yes.
Counselor Sadiq,
No.
Counselor Faralia,
Yep.
Counselor Silva,
Yeah.
President Burke,
Yes.
Secretary Billups is a no. Counselor Wagner,
Yes.
Counselor Tunis,
Yes.
and Vice President Wentz.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a no. I don't
Okay,
know.
6-5.
Doesn't matter.
I apologize.
That's to
Motion
call
to
the
call the
question. Yes,
question.
yes, to call the question. So now we'll have a roll call vote
Wait.
on tabling 3131.
Now, this is tabling 3131, Counselor Tunis. Counselor Hayman,
No.
Counselor Blackwell,
No to tabling.
Counselor Andrewsko,
Yes.
Counselor Sadiq,
No table.
Counselor Faralia,
Yes.
Counselor Silva,
A no to table.
President Burke,
Table.
Billups is a no. Counselor Wagner,
Yes.
Counselor Tunis,
No to tabling.
and Vice President Wentz.
Yes to table.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-5.
No tabling.
No tabling. Nope.
Then you would take a vote on approving. Someone should make a motion.
Before council members make a motion, can I offer a compromise?
You got the
We've done
floor.
these in
You got the
past.
floor.
So council members are not ready to approve $2.5 million. Again, as I said previously, when this was put on the agenda, or when we agreed to vote to advertise this, Councilman Andrusco's support, so far as I understood, it was predicated on those cuts. He wanted to see, so he stated $1.7 million in cuts to expenses. We have agreed in both budgets so far to 1.1. I would propose that we agree to $2 million of revenue replacement instead of the 2.5, which is less than the 20% threshold, so we should be able to prove it tonight, if I'm correct. It wasn't a math major.
Okay.
But would council members be open to approving the ordinance with an amendment allowing $2 million in revenue replacement tonight instead of the 2.5?
So just to add something to your question, Councilman Hayman, I don't even know how we can do any of this without an audit that's finished and a budget. I just don't know how you can put the cart before the horse on all this. I mean, we've been waiting how long for an audit? And we're going by suggestions. When that audit comes in, how many corrections are going to have to be made to this budget? And it's impossible. We're still working on it? How's it? It sounds like beating the dead horse, like we're working on the police.
It's certainly
the
not a
police
horse.
contract.
Certainly
I mean,
not a
it's-
horse,
it's
President
pass the
Burke.
buck.
So President Burke, just to reiterate, because, and I don't know if you probably don't understand this, but other council members certainly do. If we don't approve the revenue replacement tonight and we were to table it, as was obviously considered, it would not have been able to have been voted on in this year, in this fiscal year. And so as a
I
result.
believe I was the one that said January 4th.
Right, that's not this year.
So who cares?
Well, who cares? It would require you to pass a budget with a higher millage rate so that we are compliant with the Home Rule Charter. We don't run a budget deficit. So approving the revenue replacement in this fiscal year is extremely important if we are going to have the option to actually legitimately consider one of those two budgets at the next meeting. Now, if council members still want to go with 0.66 millage rate, they would have the right to do that. I would suggest not doing it this year and holding off on such an extreme increase in taxes when we have this money available. You know, again, like, if we can't pass a budget, and just for council members to remember, our home rule charter says, again, correct me if I'm wrong, we revert on a month-by-month basis to the 2022 budget.
That's correct.
The 2022 budget includes $2.6 million less for the police alone. That would be a 10% cut in police spending, goes from $28 million and change to over $30 million in the proposed budget that you have before you tonight. So the effect of your actions would be, if we do not pass a budget, that you are very literally defunding the police. But the overwhelming majority of the remainder goes to our first responders and to sanitation.
Why do you turn the table about defunding the police when we just moved money from one department to another department? I mean, why do you just take your bullet points? So you had what you said, I said what I said, and Councilwoman Wagner, go ahead.
The bottom line is this, we're talking about semantics here. If we get to, next week and we pass the version, which I believe is the mayor's new version, right, that we got last night, that includes the ARPA funds. All right. Look, fine. The version that, the one version we're talking about that includes the ARPA funds, which is not what Councilman Andrusco discussed with you regarding reducing or getting the 1.1 million in cuts. I'm talking about the one that's includes the ARPA funds. If we pass that next week, clearly that means we're in agreement with allocating it and we just vote on it a couple weeks later. It's not, this is ridiculous. Like the basics and the common sense here is just that. If we vote on the other budget and vote to approve that instead, where we are not using ARPA funds, then we don't allocate them. This is very basic. So if you want to vote on it tonight, that's fine, but I don't think that this is necessary. I also think it's completely inappropriate for us to allocate funds when we don't know which budget we're going to go with.
And also, just to be clear, I said last meeting and the meeting before that we were crystal clear with Ms. Stillwater that we said the Finance Committee went back to Ms. Stillwater for Brinker Simpson. At no time were they agreeing when the budget came out in October or whenever, November, that ARPA funds would be used. And I asked her if I was crystal clear or was, and she said, yes, that's correct. So when you're talking about months and dates, I clarified the 2 meetings ago and last meeting with Mr. Orr. So keep throwing a 2.5 ARPA into it. You guys are just throwing stuff in there. I don't understand it. You didn't hear what I asked the question to Brinker Simpson.
I was, President Burke, I told you in a meeting when you were someone, and I forgive me, I don't know who it was, alleged that you had said that you wanted that or something like the 2.5 million initially. I'm not saying that that was originally part of your plan, but we have the money available. The administration has brought forward plans to release those funds something like 6 times now. We do have revenue replacement sitting in the bank right now. And so to anybody watching this, and understand that if we don't approve at least some portion of this tonight, and again, I think $2.2 million is a place to start. It means $1.6 million less in spending than was initially proposed.
I was a table. I wasn't even a no. This is ridiculous.
Okay, well, you know what, Councilman Blackwell, we were going back and forth, so.
So I understand, I just want to, just for the record, when the statement was made, so the constituents know, when they said, who cares? I care about the Darby. I care about this budget. And I care about us getting legislation and getting done what we were voted to get done. Just to make sure that it's very clear. Thank you.
Councilman Silva, would you be open to seconding a motion to approve ordinance 3131, amending it to note $2 million in replacement instead of the 2.5 that's currently listed?
I haven't considered any kind of amendment. We haven't done calculations on that, or actually. Basically, if we do not pass 3131, we close the door on the
Yes.
mayor's budget.
Yes.
I mean, that's not inaccurate.
We don't.
We closed the door on a budget.
No, we haven't. No, we
Councilman,
haven't.
But then the millage rate has to reflect
yes.
the 6.6 increase, and then that has to be instated.
And that's next week.
So we
But
would have no
This is
option.
out the door.
Do have an option.
Next week.
No, we would not have an option.
All. If we vote
All right,
on
I'm
that
sorry, let
next
me get
week.
from the solicitor. I am like, at this point,
I understand.
yeah, thank you.
The budget, you're supposed to pass the balanced budget, okay? And the millage rate should line up with the resolution that's ultimately passed by council in the budget. So if the mayor's, or whatever budget we call,
Say call it a budget.
a budget, the first budget that got tabled this evening. I'll call it resolution 5322, 5422, not the zoning hearing board. Right? If that is if that is something that you or other council wants to go ahead and pass, then yes, that contemplates the revenue replacement being approved by the end of the year.
It's already in there. It's in the budget. So there's no reason to vote on it. The 2.5 is in the mayor's budget. So if it's approved with the 2.5
But the
million.
funds have to be
We
allocated
will,
by
we
ordinance.
will. We don't need that 2.5 January 4th, so it doesn't matter.
Technically,
You're supposed to by December 31st.
No, you don't need it. We just got done, you can, Jack,
You can
Brinker
move
Simpson,
it at any
you can
time.
move
I'm
it at
just-
any time, so you don't
can,
need
But
it.
the budget is different. The budget per state law should be balanced to the best ability of.
Okay, so if you pass the budget and you pass the budget with the tax millage increase that matches it, the 2.5 automatically goes into it. Yeah, it does.
No,
Yes, it
no,
does.
what I'm suggesting is it's in,
You're gonna move it,
it's,
you're gonna, she said we can move it anytime we want.
it's in the budget. It's in the
words.
budget.
It's in the words.
It's not until an ordinance releases the money that the money's released.
And Mayor, what I'm suggesting is if we actually do pass that budget with that written in there, it's actually in there, we would clearly then vote to release the money.
Instructing the finance department how to write a budget? Okay, just to be clear.
No, what I'm saying is that. was
Mayor,
part-
it's our budget. It's council's budget, not the finance department. It's council budget.
That I wasn't suggesting how anybody should write it. What I'm suggesting, or what I'm saying, not suggesting, is that it's part of your budget. It's part of it. So if we were to pass that budget, it is part of the budget.
I gave my opinion. I'm not gonna.
So,
my opinion.
so next week, if we are to pass that, that's essentially agreeing to also then pass the ARPA funds, which we would just put an ordinance on for a meeting in January. That's very basic.
No, basic is passing an ordinance that releases ARPA funds. That's basic.
After it's approved. After the budget's approved.
Our solicitor has spoken on the matter, and if you want to table it.
Always move it.
But you could have moved it a long time ago. Again, 6 times I've asked for it this year. You've moved nothing.
You're right.
So there's no reason for anyone to believe that you would move it in January.
You know, we're not, if we voted yes on the budget, that would be an actual reason. I mean, this is not going anywhere. I mean, obviously.
Just do the vote.
Yeah,
Let's
just-
just get it over with. I want
The
to go
vote on
home.
the ordinance 3131. Roll call.
I don't believe we have technically
needs
a
to make a
motion or
motion and a
second. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 3131.
I think it was made.
Second.
It was made.
It was first and second on the original.
Because then I made the motion to table it after that.
Okay.
Okay,
Then it
so we
was.
refer to the, yeah, that's
So
right.
then the table lost, and then it goes back to ordinance
You're right. Then the
3131.
underlying ordinance, right.
That's correct. Yes, yes, yes.
That ordinance has to be voted on.
You're correct.
And I did read a book on that, Andrew, just to let you know.
Wait, I'm sorry, President Burke, just for clarification, did we not just have a vote to table 3131?
And it went the other way, 6-5.
Okay, thank you.
So now we're voting to approve 3131. As is, with the revenue replacement of $2.5 million. Roll call vote, please.
Sure. Counselor Hayman,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Anjusco,
No.
Counselor Sadiq,
Yes.
Counselor Faralia,
No.
Counselor Silva,
Yes.
President Burke,
No.
Secretary Billups is a yes. Counselor Wagner,
No.
Counselor Tunis,
Oh,
Counselor
yeah.
Tunis. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And Vice President Wentz.
No.
6-5.
All right. So 6-5, 31 passes. Next up, we have Solicitor's report.
Thank you very much. Members of council, I know the evening is late, 10 PM. I wanted to see if anybody have any questions.
I do. It's going to get a little longer.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Jesus.
So I would like to touch on a few of the questions in public forum that were made earlier about legal bills, lawsuits. So we'll start talking about any new lawsuits that you emailed me the other day. Would like a conversation on that.
Sure. No, I mean, it's public record.
Public record.
Yeah. I emailed President Burke a copy of a bid protest we had related to Stubner's injunction for the community center, related to the administration's allocation of the award to McManus. There has been an injunction filed in the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. No date has been scheduled yet.
Okay. All right.
We submitted that claim, just to let you know, we submitted that claim to insurance to see if they cover it. If not, my firm will defend.
Okay, thank you. Next up, I received an email from you from 40.403 section. There's two sections, Section J and Section B, and this refers to conversation 2 months ago about the parking department and the tickets. So I would like the update on where the parking tickets are and the conversations that we had in council, the conversations that I've had with your law firm, and also the Section J and Section B, referring to the parking department.
Ms. Marcini has looked into this matter on behalf of the firm, so she's prepared to give a report.
I would suggest, sir, respectfully, that this matter be held in executive session, if that's possible. If we could discuss this in an executive session.
Okay, so I'll move on to Section J and Section B of the Home Rule Charter that Mr. Kilkenny sent me today. And then we'll go back to referring back to the executive session after Mr. Kilkenny reads Section J and Section B.
Okay.
Everybody was emailed it.
Sure. What sections would you like? I'm sorry.
J and B.
J, and this is section 403, powers and responsibility of the member. J is appoint with the approval of 6 members of council, all members of authorities, boards, and commissions except as otherwise provided under law. And the other section was?
B.
B. Execute and enforce all laws, ordinance, and resolutions, and see that they are faithfully obeyed.
And these are the powers or the duties of the mayor?
They are.
Okay. What is your recommendation when the mayor or the administration does not follow Section B on ordinances that do not carry out the ordinances?
So my recommendation first is if council or anyone else sees the administration not following an ordinance or resolution that they're obeyed, they bring it to the attention of the mayor, give her the opportunity to, cure that. If that is not satisfied, be it a council or a private citizen, then the recourse under law is a mandamus action in the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas requiring the mayor to follow the charter.
Okay. And the mayor has been brought, the attention has been brought to the mayor on some ordinances, and your law firm has directed the administration to follow these ordinances. To my understanding, they haven't followed the one particular ordinance that I'm speaking about. We had a meeting, and am I correct on that?
I think this is the executive session, Matt.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
I'd be happy-
This is just about,
You brought.
Did we speak
You brought
about following
you brought to my
ordinances?
attention an ordinance.
And you spoke to the mayor.
Ms. Marcini then spoke to.
The mayor.
Yeah, or,
Administration.
yes.
We'll just say the administration and the mayor. And the administration and the mayor are not following that ordinance as per se.
That's not- That, Ms. Marcini can give an update as to.
I-
Yeah. And she's suggesting it be an executive
Okay.
session. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm good. Go ahead.
Some of the meetings are blending together, but at a meeting, we had some parts of the Home Rule Charter on the agenda that you nicely read for us. And one of the things that was mentioned from the Home Rule Charter and actually the Administrative Code, that all MOUs contracts or negotiated with the collective bargaining units had to come before council before they were enacted. My understanding that there are outstanding MOUs that the administration had negotiated that never came before council, but they have already been enacted. So we haven't received anything on the negotiations on the ARPA funds. And then OPIU also had a MOU on clarification of positions of whether or not if jobs landed in the union or not. I'm sorry, I'm missing the proper name for that. But we haven't seen any of those MOUs. They have not come before council. We did talk about that at that meeting earlier this month. And no MOUs have shown up on our agenda. So I'm just curious, where do we go from here?
I remember that point, and I remember the administrative code and the charter provision referring to that. I brought that up to the mayor. Obviously, I'm not the labor council. That's usually Mr. McLaughlin, so I'm not in the day-to-day of all of this. And it says that, things related to our collective bargaining shall be approved by council. I believe an amendment to the contract would constitute that. I believe the mayor wanted to talk to Mr. McLaughlin about that and that interpretation. I don't know what happened or where we are with that, but I believe that's where we left the conversation.
And Solicitor Kilkenny and Vice President Wentz, you're referring to Section B, to follow all ordinances. And I believe.
There was,
Right,
but
but
there was a.
Right, but it's specific, but I'm just saying,
Specifically, I
that's just
believe it was
another
the
case
administrative
of
code.
the administration and the mayor not following the ordinances. They
No.
decide to follow an ordinance, whatever they want. So,
That's a case of things not getting done the way you want them done, I think.
It was,
okay, it's the same thing. So I guess we'll handle that in an executive session too.
okay,
So-
I just wanted to,
You're-
see where we were on that, that's
Yeah,
all,
I-
because we hadn't seen any MOUs, that's all. Thank you.
Any other old business?
No, we have to do all this.
Any new business?
I guess one
Go ahead.
quick item. So we, on the 24th, Men of Action Brothers of Faith, I mentioned this in a previous meeting, it's having its 10th annual family holiday giveaway here at the Township Building from 12 to 2. It's Saturday, December 24th. And the only other thing I wanted to say, giving away toys to families in need. The only other thing I want to say is to wish all of you a happy Hanukkah, which I think is very appropriate for tonight, and a Merry Christmas. For those of you who celebrate Christmas.
Same to you. Motion to,
Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays.
and Matt, I'm sorry.
And happy
Councilman
Kwanzaa.
Silva, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion on table resolution 5422. I want to make a motion
Second.
to untable resolution 5422.
On table?
I'll second. I'll second it. Do you have a first and a second?
Motion on table and then a motion to approve, if it's under new business, so.
Can I make a motion to approve it?
I'll second.
Motion.
We have to vote on it.
I apologize.
So someone making that?
Someone made a motion.
Yeah.
I believe, did Councilman Silva just make the,
You made a motion and somebody seconded.
I seconded it, yes.
Why don't you do a roll call?
Oh, y'all was waiting for me? I had to.
Secretary Phillips, this is a roll call vote to untable Resolution 5422.
5422?
Yes.
Okay. Wrong one.
And this was 5422 was she called it the mayor's budget. Everybody called it Resolution 5422. So.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
On table 5422, that's all you're
Okay,
voting for.
all right. Counselor Hayman,
Yes.
Counselor Blackwell,
Yes.
Counselor Andrusco.
No.
I can't hear you.
Said no.
Okay. Counselor Sadiq,
Yes.
Counselor Faralia,
No.
Counselor Silva,
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to vote no. That's confusing, I'm sure. I apologize. But yeah, the answer is no.
President Burke,
It's all right, Matt.
No.
Counselor Billups is a yes. Counselor Wagner,
No.
Counselor Tunis,
Yes.
and Vice President Wentz.
No.
Okay, 6-5. Any other new business?
No.
Okay.
Adjourn.
Second.
10:07. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy Halloween.
No, not Halloween.